allegiance.
Let's pray. Lord, we love you and we thank you and we praise you. Lord, we know that today is the day that you have made, and we pray that you would help us to act like it. Lord, I pray that as we go about our business here today, that we do so in a manner that pleases you. Lord, I pray as we live in this county and interact with each other and walk and talk with each other, that we do so in a way that pleases you. Lord, help us every day to live our lives acknowledging that you're right here with us in everything that we do. Lord, help it to be something that we truly take into our hearts and not just something that we pray out loud in a public meeting, but a true change of our hearts, that when other people see us, they know that we're part of your kingdom. Lord, I lift up people who aren't as fortunate as we are. I lift up people who are sick or hurting, and I pray that they would feel your presence. Lord, I pray for people who need to know you as their Savior. Lord, as always, we lift up this county and the people of this county, the government of this county, our local government, our state government, and our national government, Lord. We lift up those men and women that fight in the military. We pray that you would just guide us and direct us in all the things we do in this meeting and outside. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order and move on to the approval of the agenda. We've got one item to add. And that's, you have a letter in your packet regarding the SBDC from South Florida Community College, so we'll add that to the agenda after the draft budget. Has everyone had time to review the minutes? We'll open for a motion to approve the amended agenda and minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, and we'll turn it over to Sarah for the budget amendments.
Could I get a question in, please? Thank you very much. I enjoyed the prayer, and I feel that I've always been friendly, and maybe it didn't apply to me. But when I pray to God for wisdom, for making good decisions, He tells me, work hard, work harder, and you will have the wisdom. That's what I base my life on. When I cut a deal with God, I hold up my end of the bargain. I don't go out and spend a month not doing my work. Now, when I call my work, it's my understanding that the people of Hardee County elect commissioners, put their trust in him or her to protect the welfare and the money of the county. The commissioners appoint IDA members, and they transfer responsibility for looking out for the county to those members. And we I can only speak to myself, I am responsible for doing a thorough job, the best I can within my abilities. And, well, Bill, you know what my commitment is, and so I have to say that I could actually have saved the county $200,000 very easily. And I'll give you the example of the concrete that was put into, or is being put into, or the money is being allocated, or for a heavy machine, 47,500 pounds. And I'll put it in simple terms. When you spread that over 4 1-foot, this is about a foot, 1-foot pads with vibration isolators and with damping, and you spread it out over that 1 foot. By the time you do the calculations, the PSI on the down, I'll say a ballerina, if she weighs, well, I'll tell you what she weighs, to the 47,500 pounds. Her weight on that 1 square inch, PSI, people have heard of PSI, pounds per square inch, is 87 PSI. That's it. 87 PSI. Why does the concrete have to be reinforced? I put together the analysis because since November 13th, 2012, when the call was made from England, until now, 8 months later, there's been no update at all. And I have all my work for the whole month documented here. It's all public information and public information only. It was provided to me by Bill's group and also the minutes of the meeting, November 13th, 2012. Now we're looking at July, and we're supposed to create jobs expeditiously. We're committed to that. But we're sitting around waiting for this to move on. And I even brought a prop along. I'm a real electrical engineer from Illinois Institute of Technology. In the package, you will find what the university, the research institute is. My big boss was world-renowned, very famous. I've included the paper on that. I only had 10 packages, but I have extra CDs that'll even play in your car, so that you can understand a little bit more of what's involved. Since Christy had asked us all to prepare for this project, and I went in to see, and it was passed on, and I haven't heard, but it doesn't matter, because I can do the analysis, and it's all there available. And what I want to make sure that people realize, it's all public information. Finally, when your office invited me to meet with Travis Bond, one-on-one, so that there is no sunshine being broken or whatever it was. I met with Mr. Travis Bond, and I had a very respectful and enjoyable 2 hours with him. The communication that was between us made me realize that he's a good businessman. And we talked about I cannot preempt what we talk to, because he has a presentation to make. That would be very unprofessional of me to preempt him. I've lost all my friends. They call me up and what? The hardest thing I say, I'm not going to talk about it, because it's private. I think he learned something from me, I learned from him. And then there was Tony Pizzaglia, is he in the room here? Have I got that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a good time before the meeting talking about concrete. And when you're talking about 6,000 PSI concrete, or if you want real high-strength concrete, 12,000 PSI. In the package, you will see the world's tallest all-concrete building in Chicago, 965 feet. All concrete. Of course, there's rebar to hold the columns together, but no steel structure. And if the planes had flown into the concrete building, they'd probably bounced off and there wouldn't have been a fire. Anyhow, it's in the package. I got 10 packages available, and I look forward to oh, I got one more thing to say. When I was instructed that if I voted no, I have to justify my vote, I got to thinking about that. It's the vote that says, yes, we are going to give money out to a project. That also needs to be justified in writing by each IDA member, because they have the responsibility to account for the county's money. So that should also be, yes, sir.
I believe that was just if you chose not to vote, to give an explanation, not.
In other words, oh, well, I'm happy about that. But are you telling me that if we had 13 people, oh, by the way, the November 13th, 2012 meeting had only 6 voters. 6. Now we have 13. They haven't listened to what was presented by Dr., as Bill likes to call him, Dr. Oken. Well, all the research I've done, there is no doctor. I'd like to see his thesis that he got his PhD for. But it's if you had 13 unqualified people and they make a motion and they second it, and then everybody says yes, unanimous, give them $10 million, irrespective of, I think those votes that authorize the money to be obligated should be presented with the facts and their reasoning for making such a vote. And thank you very much.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to Sarah for the budget amendments.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In front of y'all, you have a copy of the draft budget for fiscal year 13-14. A portion of our meeting today has been advertised as a budget workshop, and so we will be going through the draft budget and presenting it to you. Along with me today, I have Charlie Cox with me from Wicks Brown. He is one of the accountants that has been working to prepare this budget for you. And so I'm going to have him come up here with me to kind of go along through this and answer any specific questions that you have. So, yes, sir.
All right. Now, there's 2 things on here. Which one are we doing? Are we doing the draft budget, or are we doing the budget amendments?
We're going to do both. First, we're going to go through and just pull out the large budget that you have in front of you, and we're going to do the amendments for the current fiscal year's budget and how they play into this upcoming budget. So we'll do the amendments first to the current year and then discuss the draft. So,
Okay, are we gonna vote on that?
on the amendments? Yes.
On the budget amendments?
Yes, we will.
Okay, and when it comes to the the draft budget, is this a public hearing, or are we gonna vote on that?
No, sir. This is just a budget workshop, and then we will have the public hearing at a later date where you'll actually vote and approve the final budget.
Okay,
This is just for each of y'all to go through the budget and look at how we've categorized everything, and if you want to see changes made, you can do so at this time. This is just, like I said, a workshop, so you can work through it, any questions you have, any changes you want to see made, added, take away, it's up to your pleasure today to do that.
okay.
All right, so for the current fiscal year, we have one amendment that will take place regarding the Commerce Park culvert and pond. We will be amending to take $256,000 out of the general revenue fund and appropriate that for the culvert and pond project. And yes, we need a motion to appropriate that money.
Are you going to present all of the amendments, or are we going to go one by one?
Whichever you want to do. If you want to do them one by one or
I prefer that.
one by one.
As far as voting, but, I mean, we're gonna make amendments, we don't know what all of the requests for amendment are. So I think we should probably hear that, and then we can look at them one by one.
Okay.
Well, we should know what they are.
She's just gonna list them. Let her go ahead and list the various amendments she's proposing.
Okay.
Okay. This is going to be up to your pleasure, I suppose, but the pond is really the only current fiscal year amendment other than continuum. So I need some direction as to how you want to handle that. Continuum is a separate issue, but it is needing to be amended in the current fiscal year budget. So,
So the total budget amendment requests are for those two items.
yes, sir.
The amount for the pond is
$256,000.
$250,000, and that includes the retention and the new culvert replacement, $256.
Mhm.
And then continuum is $600,000.
Correct.
So there's a total of current four-year 2012-13 amendments to increase expenditures by $856,000.
Correct.
Okay, that's what you're discussing first.
Okay.
As far as the 256,000, now we got bids on that, and that was Swift Mud's
The
recommendations as far as size.
the retention pond is designed, engineered, it's been permitted by Swift Mud. It is 3 acres. It is for a section of the southern tract across the creek. It will give us excavation capabilities of 3 acres, and I cannot remember the average depth of that particular pond, but it is designed according to Swift Mud standards. The bids came in, if you recall at the last meeting, and I told you there was a range from $117,000 to $453,000, I think was the range of the 4 bidders. And I was apprehensive about taking the $117,000 bid. So we're asking you to amend the budget to $156,000, so we have a contingency in case we run into a problem. We went back to the vendor. He is confident that he can do this project for the $117,000. There is some construction and management fees of $10,000 or $12,000 on top of that, so the total would be around $139,000, but we've asked for $156,000 roughly. As to the culvert, we still expect it to be less than $100,000. We're completing a drainage study it's kind of a quirky little situation in that we can replace the culvert that's there,
But if we can't increase the downstream flow, and the indications are that we need a 5 and 2, or an 84 and 2 60-inch pipes instead of one 84-inch pipe. So we're having to make sure that the drainage basin that is back to the west for approximately 1/4 mile actually indicates that that is the volume of water that will flow through the pipe. And they are going to treat us, the Industrial Development Authority permit will be done by Swift Mud as a noticed general permit, which means we will have the same permitting prerogatives as if we were the state or the county government. And we don't expect it to take more than about 30 to 40 days to complete that permitting. And I'd like to have them both there together so that we can use some of the appropriate material that comes out of the pond for the fill material in the proximity of the culvert, and also the sub-base for the road that will be going through that area. One other thing on the retention pond, the county would like to take all of the spoil material that will come off the top foot or so. We're also trying to coordinate the movement of that material. It'll go to the landfill and be used as cover. And we're trying to tailor the contractor's ability to excavate and scrape with the county's ability to have trucks there, so we don't have to double handle that material too. And it's generally not suitable for construction material because it has too much organic matter.
We can't use that for field if we have to bring the land up higher.
It has too much organic in it. It's the top foot of soil, and it can be utilized with really good efficiency by the county, and I didn't think anyone would have any objection to it.
Oh, I don't object to it. Are they gonna replace it with soil we can use?
I would guess, but I didn't know we were in a competitive situation with them. I thought we were their partners.
Well, we are, but we're gonna have to end up buying probably millions of dollars worth of field if we get it out there.
No, we
To
have.
build a building that's up above the floodplain or whatever.
We're fine on field. We're fine. And the top foot is not suitable to go under a building because it has too much organic material in it.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to make an observation that on 64 near West Main, they've been processing scrapings from the road to reuse, to build more road. And what an absolute beautiful job they've done. They brought in equipment, they mixed it, and it just looks like perfect for the new topping, adding bitumen to it. And I want to say that whoever is running that project, it's really nice. It's impressive if you, have you seen it?
I have seen it, but it's one of the few things we don't get involved with here.
Okay, well, I didn't know. But it's, I mean, weren't you impressed when you saw how that, yeah. Thank you.
It's really
Yeah, they
efficient.
ground it, they mixed it, they took the stuff from different batches, and they really know what they're doing, in my opinion.
Really.
So on the culvert amendment, if there's no further discussion, we will on that item open for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And we'll move on to the next
All
one.
right. That was the only amendment that will be coming out of general revenue. So the next set of amendments will be monies that come out of the Mosaic Special Revenue Fund. You have the $600,000 appropriation for Continuum that needs to be amended out of Mosaic. We also have a $650,000 allotment for PFM that the board has already voted on in a previous meeting, but we're now going back to actually amend the budget to show that. So I'm not sure how the motion works for that. It's already been approved. but we did want to make mention that we're actually allocating it now.
Sarah, where is that on the budget?
The long budget that you have is for next fiscal year. So it doesn't show because PFM will technically be finished before we start fiscal year 13-14. So it doesn't actually go on to this new budget. It'll be completed next month, actually. So that amendment is something that you voted on 3 or 4 months ago. And so we're just allocating it into the budget now.
On this continuum, 600,000, is that part of the 992,000 that's on next year's budget?
Yes.
No,
Well, where is the 600,000?
no, let me give you some history. Originally, the commitment to Continuum Labs was for $7.25 million. For year one, we funded $2,550,000. There was $99,000 that had not been drawn by St. Blue Water. Last year, you agreed to fund the balance of that first year's appropriation to Continuum at the beginning of the draw period. Continuum asked for $3.6 million additional dollars. I asked you to hold back $600,000 until we had the full retrofit, acquisition and retrofit of the Preco building resolved. All of that has been done, and we are recommending to you today that if you so choose, you may consider funding the additional $600,000 from the request that was made last October with Continuum. The totals of those monies would be $2,650 and $3 million currently. The $600,000 will take you to $992,000 short of the next year's funding, which is what's in the budget for 2013. Did I misstate anything?
2014.
That was good.
2014, yes. I'm sorry. Sure.
Is that what's up now, Madam Chairman, this continuum?
Yes.
Okay, I got something I want to say. Okay, my focus on this board is to help create jobs for Hardy County people, not Hillsborough County, Pasco County, Manatee County. I'm willing to say that out of that $300,000 a month that we give continuum, $50,000 stays in the county and $250,000 leave the county. Most Hardy County workers make their living working with their hands. That is why we should focus on manufacturing. We have spent $7 million on a project that has created 9 jobs for Hardy County people, probably 30 to 35 jobs for out of the county people. I submit that we have spent less money at the commerce part than we have on this project. And there's probably about 85 jobs out there. This technology push was created for political reasons instead of economic reasons. What's best for Hardy County's people didn't happen. I would say that right now there's been a total of $9 million been spent on this project. That's about $1 million per job, and I just don't see any real big boom in the future for this. So what I've got down here is $2.6 million for LifeSync, $3.1 million for Continuum, $1 million for the Preco building, $400,000 for the upgrade, and Mr. Bond has spent $2 million of his money. That's $9 million if I've added it right. So I can't see any reason for this thing to continue.
I'll take it from there.
Well, let me just clarify one point, though, that I know you've brought up before, and I want to make sure that everybody is clear that we own the Preco building. So saying that that is an investment for Continuum is a little off base, because that is a building that we own and we retain at this time, and the money that has been spent on the building is again an investment that has been retained in Hardy County. So counting that in what you feel like has been spent on the project, I feel like is a little off. If Continuum didn't continue in Hardy County, we would have that asset to use for another project.
Well, we include Keyplex in there. We include EF Men as that's part of it, of the cost of them doing business out there. So why shouldn't we add the pre-built building and the cost of Continuum Labs doing business there and Tech River?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I recall when the original presentation was made in this room, you were here. And you caught me in the back of the room and you put your finger in my chest and you said, Bill Lambert, if you don't make this project happen, you're crazy. You said to me, this could be one of the best projects we ever did in Hardy County. At that day, after that presentation in this room, it's kind of like deciding you're going to build a house and you get to the point where it's time to put a roof on it and you just stop construction. I mean, we made a commitment on that day, a 3-year commitment with a set amount of money to try to make this project work. And there's 2 parts to it. One is Tech River and the other is Continuum. And I've said this before, we could have easily taken that money and given it to the high school or the community college and developed an education syllabus, and no one would have challenged it. They'd have never questioned it. But all we'd have been doing is giving these children a one-way bus ticket out of here because there had been no opportunity for them. We went one step further and we're trying to create jobs in conjunction with the training. And this is really the only economic development we've really done. Everything else is economic expansion or replacement.
When I first heard about this, you're right, I did say I like this because I really didn't understand the way it was going to end up. I mean, and the thing is that you told us that it was for $2.5 or $6 million. The next thing I know, we have a meeting with Jamie Grant up there in the EDO office, and he comes up with a figure of $7.5 million, which I never heard that figure before. So for somehow it jumped from 2.6 million to 7.5 million without any vote of this board. I thought this technology thing was going to be a pretty good thing too. But the way it's turned out, 9 jobs for $9 million, I don't think so.
Well, if you look at it as 9 jobs for $9 million, I think you're absolutely correct. But how do you place a value on creating a new sector in your economy?
Bill,
We are currently a leader in poverty, and we have high unemployment. And what you're proffering, or at least I think what you're proffering, is that we continue to extend that same state of existence. We have to put some diversity in this economy. It may seem unconventional, it may be unattainable for some of the people that live here, but if we don't try to do this, a lot of our population is going to be unemployed henceforth. And we are trying, we have a portfolio of investment where we're trying to do industrial development that is maybe more appropriate for Hardy County, that may provide blue-collar jobs. But what is wrong with trying to create a white-collar sector in this economy?
we need to be reasonable about what we're doing.
Well, is it unreasonable?
In Hardy County, it is.
You should have close to $200 million. The amount of money we've spent on this project is a rounding error. If we have any return eventually, Hillsborough County will tell you that they expect 1 out of 13 technology companies to make it. But every one that makes it pays off for the 12 failures.
If we had technology companies in here that made mouses or made wiring for computers or made chips, yeah, Hardy County is not going to be the next Silicon Valley.
How do you
These developers and programmers are not going to move to Hardy County. Now, we can fund them in Hillsborough County all you want. They're going to stay over there. There's no amenities here for those people. They're not going to move here and work here in Hardy County. Now, we can fund them in Pasco and Hillsborough County and Manatee County and Sarasota County. but they're not gonna come here.
They're not gonna come here
No,
with
they're
the
not.
atmosphere of contentiousness that we.
Well, why don't Travis Bond move his developers over here then? Why don't he move his mentors over here?
You know, this
Why don't
man.
his
he took-
HR department should be over here?
He took this project over in an evolutionary fashion in October of last year. He has a presentation to make today. I have found no fault with this man and the efforts that he's put forth in trying to create this business for us. He has a daunting task ahead of him. You just admitted it. You just said that this is a totally inappropriate project for Hardy County. We don't have the intellectual raw material to do it. We apparently don't have anything that's gonna take to make this project work. Yet initially, you thought it was really good.
From what I understood initially, yes, but apparently, I just didn't understand it wasn't smart enough, or it was presented to me, well, anyway, it didn't turn out the way that I was initially thought it was going to, because I thought technology was good. But I didn't understand it was going to end up like this, with all this money and 9 jobs, and I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, I can also tell you that we're going to have a very difficult time competing one-on-one with third world countries that are emerging as manufacturing hubs. Because they are willing to pay their people a much lower wage. Their people are willing to live with a lower quality of standard of living than we have in America. And it is technology that provides the brightest chance for a future.
I don't deny that, but it's not going to happen in Hardy County.
Well, it won't
We
be
can
if we
just
take
keep
that
throwing
attitude.
money at it over and over and over and over, but it's not going to make any difference.
Let me just interject.
I
for-
got a motion.
Okay, yeah, let me just interject something for just a moment. Because I appreciate the debate and the dialogue, but it seems there's, a big factor missing here that, I want to go back in time a little bit and give some history of what the understanding of the project was. We were partnering with Continuum to create a product, much like we would to create a building or a manufacturing center. The product is what essentially would bring jobs to Hardy County through servicing subscribers, through potentially having healthcare jobs, records jobs that would create an opportunity for us to have a servicing call center in addition to the product that has been created in Hardy County. My understanding has been, from the very beginning, that it would be, the bulk of the jobs would be service industry type jobs, and it would give us an opportunity to develop our own developers and technology in Hardy County. So, I understand your concern, but I still feel like there's a big piece of the puzzle missing that we don't discuss. That's the opportunity in this investment.
Thank you very much. I gotta reiterate, I had a very professional, pleasant meeting with Mr. Bond. And I wanna make a motion, by the way, that was for 2 hours. And I wanna make a motion that, in fairness, Mr. Bond should do his presentation so that we can hear what he's put into the effort to bring jobs, but clear-cut, identify it, because I can't tell you what we talked about because it's private. And so he should have an opportunity to make his presentation, and then after that, we make a decision.
And you've made that in the form of a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
You said
No,
he.
Donald,
no.
did you ever move?
No, I didn't have a motion. I can do one.
Well, I couldn't recall if you had made a
No,
motion.
no.
So we have a motion on the table from Forrest to delay the budget amendment until the Continuum last presentation. Do we have a second?
Oh, I thought he wanted me to do it right now.
Yeah, I want him to do it now.
We want to stop with,
Yeah, no, because we're preempting his presentation.
Why don't we take a quick 10-minute break, and we will invite Travis to go ahead and make his presentation after the break.
I appreciate your judgment.
I did it anyway.
So if we could get back together, we took a break with a motion and a second on the table to go ahead and move on to the continuums update. So we will go ahead and take a vote on that motion, and we have a couple of quick announcements before Travis begins his presentation. So I'm sorry.
I got something. I want everybody to understand that I like Travis Bond. This is not a personal thing. I just think this project has run its course. That's all.
Thank you. So we will go ahead and open for a vote on the motion made by Force to move on to the continuance presentation before the budget amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And we're going to have a couple quick announcements. We want to say happy birthday to Mr. Prescott. Today is his birthday.
birthday.
I couldn't-
39, you got
We were not gonna sing even.
Oh, God, no. Somebody may record it.
Yeah.
Put it on
Happy
YouTube.
Birthday, dear
Got you on film over there now.
Happy birthday to you.
I appreciate it.
Not many get serenaded by Horse Song. And I'm sure you can think of no other place to be on your birthday than right here with
You
us.
bet, you bet. Maria, I understand why you married him now.
And Sarah
Thank
has
you.
an announcement that she would like to make.
I just wanted to let everyone know, I want to introduce a young lady that we have with us in the audience this morning. Her name is Arissa Camel. Please stand up. This is Arissa. Arissa is 17 years old, and she's going to be a senior in high school next year at Hardy High. She's actually volunteering in our office right now, helping us out. She is the current Miss Hardy County also. So we have royalty in our presence. But Arissa has been working with us over the last couple of weeks with Main Street and the Chamber mostly, but she's also been helping with economic development and starting to kind of educate herself as to what we do in our office. And the really cool thing is that we did not seek her out. Her mama actually called and said, I want Arissa to do something over the summer rather than sit around at home. And I think it would be a great idea if she came and volunteered in your office. So we said, well, we would love to have her. And I think that's so cool that, you know, her mother, of all the places that she could have picked for her daughter to go over the summer and, you know, volunteer or get a part-time job over the summer, that she called and said, I want her to come to the Economic Development Office and volunteer. I want her to be a part of something, you know, that's really on the forefront in this community, that's really important to Hardy County. And another interesting thing that I just learned about her, she is actually Microsoft certified, which is something that she received at Hardy High School. And so, you know, as we're talking about continuum and we're talking about economic development, we're talking about the future of Hardy County, we may not have a lot of folks here in the county currently that have the qualifications to apply for some of the jobs at Continuum, but the reason is a lot of those people have moved on. They found other places to locate where those jobs do exist. And we have an upcoming senior at our own high school here who already has some of those qualifications. And as she starts her senior year and starts thinking about where she wants to go to college and what she wants to do after she graduates, it would be really cool to be able to offer her a position back here in Hardy County at our technology park where she already has Microsoft certification and she could use whatever degree that she chooses to get and use it back here in the county. And I think that that is what we need to focus on. Arissa is our future. Arissa is the future of Hardy County, and she is already making strides to be able to be a part of something that we're doing here. And I think that's so awesome that she has decided to volunteer with us. and educate herself on what is happening in her community and what is important for the future and how she can take that back to school in August and share that with her friends and educate them as well and let them know that there are choices to be had here in Hardee County after high school. You can go off to college, and the Economic Development Office and the other boards in Hardee County are making a way for us to come back and utilize our degrees. So I'm so excited that she's here, and I hope that y'all will give her some words of encouragement maybe after the meeting.
Welcome, Marissa. Okay, Travis, we're ready for you.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Couple things I'd like to do. I want to respond to some of the dialogue this morning. I think it's healthy dialogue. Mr. Samuels, of course, other esteemed members, thank you for your participation and your attention to the project. You know, I think, I'll tell you how I'm going to sort of break out today's meeting. I'll respond to a couple of questions. And if you want to have dialogue, you're my board, and I consider you my board of directors. And so any CEO always listens to the fiduciary responsibility of his board. I'd like to show you the product real quick and how it was engineered to specifically employ people, which was part of the intention behind the technology, and why we did some redesigns that we did over the last 6 months between the acquisition and the time that we did beta. And then I'll show you handheld technology that we built. And then I'll give you the presentation I was going to give, and I don't think I will take a long time, but I'll try to hit the part. I think, you know, competition is very fierce. Have you ever noticed that? And yet I look around here and I think, there's a lot of technology in this room. The gentleman over there who's apparently streaming video from his camera to the World Wide Web right now. So anybody that has that IP address or could have that IP address could see it anywhere around the world. I see screens, monitors, Macs, audio system. I see most of you have telephones. Those were all started by someone. Japan, kicking our butt. Samsung sells 4 phones for every iPhone that's sold. We even make the phones over there. Florida has a new statistic that I heard this morning. 1 out of 58 homes in the state of Florida is in a state of foreclosure right now. We have the distinct honor of being the #1 state in the United States to be in foreclosure. California, opposite. Their home prices are actually going up. And the reason that they're doing that is because they have jobs there. Because when people have jobs, they have income, and when they have income, they want perceived progress in life too. And so they buy homes, they improve their homes, and Home Depot makes more sales, and so does Lowe's. I think I appreciate the support that we've had for the project. You know, this is my probably 6th born, if you will, since I had 5 biological childs. And I have moved part of that 6th child here. And so I'm as much invested financially and emotionally and for my daily effort in the success of this project. But I agree with Mr. Lambert. There is sustaining an economic path that then follows an intellectual path. And so people get into a mindset to what they think they'll do later in life based upon the opportunities around them. I spoke at the Hardee County School in the Microsoft class all day, and I asked every single class, what were you going to do after you graduated? Most people said that if they stayed in town, they were going to work for Burger King or some fast food place at $8 an hour, or $7.58 or $7.85. I think that's because, you know, the circus has figured out a long time ago, if you take a baby elephant and you chain it to a pole, and it can't break that chain, that even as it gets older, you can put the same chain on it, though it clearly has the strength to break the chain as it gets older. It got into the mindset that it can't break the chain, so it never tries. There'll always be one generation that will try to challenge the generation that preceded it. I believe in youth. I believe that when Steve Jobs was asked to come back after being fired from the company he founded, Michael Dell, as well as Bill Gates, told him that the company was losing money and he would do best for his shareholders to break it up and try to recover as much as he could. Now they have more cash than most third world nations. And they often sit on more cash in their bank than the United States has at any given time. I appreciate the fact that some of you are stressed out about the amount of money and investment that you're making on this project. We have 13 jobs, not 9. And you can go down and visit them. I want people to visit because it is the youth. I mean, this is what we do. We build technology. We play with technology. Shoot, I can't even get my kids off the video games, I mean, they're in Scouts, and Scouts said that, everybody has ODD or outdoor deficit disorder, I mean, technology is capturing today's youth.
Never heard that.
But it's true, right? I met with the Boy Scouts, their CEO, the head of council. They're like, how do we get technology back? How do we get in social media? How do we sit there and take the badges that are worn on sashes and perhaps put them in dashes so that because kids are now competing online, not in the uniforms that we used to wear. When World War II veterans came back from home, they wore their uniforms proudly. You know what industry spawned from World War II based on the uniform more than any other? The airline industry. Because pilots got to wear the same types of uniforms, and many of them were trained in the Air Force. The point is that there is a pride. And I think about the youth and the pride that they want to have themselves. And I think about the fact that when you don't have jobs that produce income, you got to eat. And as parents, at some point, you got to push all our kids out of the nest. And sometimes the economics says that the nest is in Hillsborough. It's in San Francisco. It's in Atlanta. It's in Tallahassee, Gainesville. It's somewhere else. And so if they want to have kids and do stuff, they got to produce a job, produce money, and they have to get a job. I firmly believe, and I voted 2 million times for it, and have worked very, very long hours along with the rest of my team. We doubled our hours. Anybody that works at Tech Park will tell you that we are online at midnight, 2 in the morning. We're up early. We have worked extra hard to make this project work down here. It will not fail. If it fails, it is because you as a board gave up. We're in healthcare, we're in technology, and we're in Obamacare. If that is not a perfect storm for technological opportunity, I do not know what is. There was a recent acquisition that was made from a company just on July 1st. One company in the social healthcare space just bought a very large company that has 12 national locations. And do you know what that company does? Aggregates medical records. Where have you heard that from before? They do it for doctors and offices. I said 6 months ago, we're going to create hundreds of jobs here by doing it for individuals because data ownership is powerful and because the patient is the least used asset in the healthcare arsenal. They are treated as the sheep. As you sit there, I treat you. You may or may not listen to what I say and you leave. And we wonder why we are getting worse. And we're like the 50th country in the world in terms of health. Yet we outspend everybody 2 to 1. $2.2 trillion is spent in healthcare last year. Let me show you what we've spent millions of dollars building, and I will show you a button that points back to Hardie. I don't know if I have a microphone back here, but I'll attempt to talk as loudly as I can. But when you log on to our software, you're going to notice that this thing is designed for families, and families are important. And in CareSync, we familitize, oh gosh, now I feel like a rock star. Okay. And so we familitize patients. And what that means is that we empower an opportunity for the care team to collaborate. My dissenters may Google this. We own this market. Nobody else does this. One of the things that I said to make software sticky was to give people information. Information is power and data is the oil of the internet. There are ways to make money. We are building a model that will be self-sustaining financially. When Susan Smith, in this case, I'm sorry it's not all on the screen here, but you can see that she has a family under here and she can manage her daughter just as quickly as she can manage herself. That is available on the iPhone. Android development started yesterday. That will be available on Android at the end of next month, and that means potentially 6 billion devices around the world could run CareSync. That's with a B. That's a lot of devices that could have access between Android and the iPhone. And we're now on the web. We do not have competition that does this. We are ahead. And the reason we're ahead is because we started 3 years ago building a social sharing platform that was privacy focused. We then invested in an API to build a health application on top of it so it could communicate with it. And then we sat there and made this thing very intelligent by adding medical databases. The reason that this is important is that when a person goes and adds a disease, they are choosing the same words, the same data dictionary point that exists in the multi-billion-dollar HIT or health information exchanges that are out there. These are the same words that computers talk to each other. And so if she has ulcerative colitis here, that has an ICD-9 code. And that ICD-9 code is mapped to 1,000 other codes. And so when this chart potentially talks to the Florida HIE or any of the other health information exchanges that the governments are spending billions of dollars on, this system can talk to those systems. Just like that gentleman's streaming video can talk to any other person that has connection to the internet. And we couldn't do that from here if you didn't invest in Rapid Systems years before we got here to have the broadband. So we are layering technology in an investment that I think is a good sound advice. I can manage allergies here. These things are important. Do you know that more people die of bad medical errors than anybody who's ever been killed by guns in the United States? It's a crazy figure, but we have like 200,000 people that die in medical errors every year just in the United States. That is a hefty number. We have things like medications. I want to go ahead and record a medication that I'm on now that I can track it. Has a physician ever asked you, you've had this problem before, and say yes? And they're like, well, what did you do for it? Well, I don't recall. What does that mean to the doctor? He's going to start all over. And then we ask ourselves why we're spending billions of dollars in retesting and everything. Because the doctor doesn't have the information. If you're able to have it on your handheld, what have you done? You've just empowered the whole visit. You've changed the dynamics. And here are some of the great things. We continually hear back to our company about people who've used CareSync. My doctor wrote for 12 months of prescriptions instead of 3 because he sees me interacting with my healthcare. My doctor said, oh, I don't have to order that test because you did it 2 months ago and you have the results and I can see them on the phone. I'll use those. We have reduced healthcare spending. And let me tell you why, Mr. Samuels, I don't think you have to be nervous. Because this, when a person adds a provider into our system, they can search 4 million plus facilities, diagnostic institutions, hospitals, and physicians and nurses and chiropractors and everybody else that has a UPenn number. They can sit there, add them to our system, and what do they get to do? They get to hit that button, and they say, I want to request records. And these records allow them to sit there and do this all electronically, to sit there and sign forms that allow them to say, how many months do I want those records? Click next. I can sit there and auto sign. A document by just typing her name in. And President Clinton is the one that made electronic signatures legal. And you know what happens now? She has signed it, and this gets faxed to that provider's office in real time. And why is that really cool? Well, one of the things is, we're going to switch back to Reflector. That fax just left right now, Tech River Park, fax server systems in the data center. That fax just got sent to Baltimore from this county. What happens when that provider gets that medical records request? Where do they call? Hardee County, from Baltimore. I am attempting, no, strike that. We all are attempting. We all are, as a team, have purposely spent millions of dollars and years of our lives creating something that was specific in healthcare that did 2 things. We kick butt when it comes to our competition in terms of what we created as a social collaborative platform that sits on an HIE-ready infrastructure, but we have purposely created job portions in the software that says people will pay money to be able to manage their care, and you can't manage what you don't know. and you don't know what the doctors have in their charts about you. But back in Ronald Reagan administration, he created something called HIPAA. And HIPAA gives you all the federal authority that you own those records. And so you know what we've been doing? Thousands of pages a month have been entered into, from the Tech River Park, into this software for people who have gone and have told their doctors that they're engaged with their health care, who are doing things that have been extraordinarily helpful. If you can hit reflector, Bell. That's pretty cool, you have to admit it. You need to talk about technology. I mean, this reinvented Apple, and then Samsung created it. What was created in California is now being mastered overseas. But point being is that this is the same track. This is Susan, right? We just brought up. I can sit there and look at her health file. These bring up my medications. I now have the power to tell my doctor what I'm doing. Guess what? I want to hit the fax button. I fax that to the nurse's station. So now, instead of the big bag of pills that everybody comes into the doctors with and they have to read the labels to get your accurate medications, she can sit there and fax it to her physicians. She can enter the fax number, or she can pick one from her providers already. Do you know where this comes from? This comes from the fax servers that are behind a firewall in the data center at Tech River. It then goes up to the roof, bounces off the water tower using Rapid Systems infrastructure, points off to ONA through the fiber, and goes to wherever it needs to go, so that fax happens. That's incredible. I mean, that's some good stuff. And so we have built an environment, I think, that not only just takes advantage of what we're doing in healthcare, but we purposely created what we knew was a need in the market. And that was to aggregate patients' records so that they can manage their health. That is the next wave that is coming. That can produce hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. And everyone that is going to be trained as medical record specialists, a certificate program course that they can then take as college credit somewhere else if they want to, or go work in a hospital or something as someone who's been certified in medical records and all the complexities of medical terminology and stuff. They get trained at Tech River University in an accelerated program, and they work right then and there. They're paid to get learned, and they're paying to work, and it happens here in Tech River Park. Yes, you know, the investment probably is a lot more nervous in technology when it's harder to see and feel than a building. But a building houses a business. Technology allows a business to spread, to expand. We have built something that is on par. We're not creating 85 jobs. You know, if no one thinks that God is not behind this, then they need to go check and pray. But there is no way, I think, that God or me has given up on a small town who has a lot going against it. God has always been for the underdog. And I think that there's a lot of kids, ones that are being interning, the ones that work at Tech River Park, who want good jobs, but they want to remain in a hometown they grew up in. And there is no reason that technology can't enable that to happen. God gave you a trade, phosphate, for an opportunity to create another sector. I agree with Mr. Lambert. I do not think there is a single action or intention that anyone can point to that is not seen, not just sincerity, but proven expertise. Also has seen our financial commitment. Many people work on this project and don't even take a paycheck. We believe in this as being something that not only will do what we said we would do, and that was to stimulate a new sector in town, to draw other companies to us, because we're going to bring people that are Microsoft certified, that want to do technology. We're going to bring them into a concentrated area so when other employers come here, they know there is a workforce that's trained, that they will have the experience, and it will lower the risk for them, that they don't build something here and then they're importing jobs from other towns. Because when that happens, what happens? An employee wants a relocation fee, right? They want all kinds of stuff. Gives them an opportunity to completely renegotiate their entire compensation package. It's expensive to move people. We have plans to create executive level jobs here very soon. Those are very good paying jobs, and that's what our vision has been here to do is not just to create one layer of a technology company, but to create layers all the way to the upper echelon of leadership in this county. I think it's completely possible. And as you said, you're right. I don't want to lose my $2 million, Mr. Samuels. I do not want to do that. I'm very fond of that money. And I would like for that to have been the seed cord for something good. I will say this, and I will give them the brief presentation that I'm required. I want to meet, and thank you, Horst, and others that have met with me one-on-one at Technology Park. There is no question you can ask that I wouldn't answer. But it has been a long and tricky road in the last couple of years, and precedent, and asking questions in front of here and cameras streaming on the internet as to what I can say that won't actually hurt the project. Because if anybody is a VC in Boston and they want to copy this model, and they Google and they find us, and every bit of our secret sauce and recipe, from financials to number of people we hired and all that other stuff, they will spend their way in duplicating this model, and they'll leapfrog us. So if there's a question that you want to ask, and I think that it hurts our company, I will respectfully request privacy in a public forum, but we can set up an appointment at your earliest convenience, and I'll answer that questions and all others to follow behind closed doors to make you, as Horst said, why I think I need a yes vote, why this project needs a yes vote, and why I think that we need to stay the course. And so I'll answer some of the other questions in the presentation, if there's nothing.
Is there going to be a presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when are you gonna take questions?
I can take them now if you like, or I am yours.
Well, you go ahead and do your presentation.
Okay. Another slide. What have we been done? What have we been doing in development in QA? So 180 bugs, new features, new designs, new code pushes, and 3 submissions to the mobile environment in the iPhone. Sometime this week, 1.5, the CareSync will be out on the iPhone to new cool features as well. One of the things that we're doing, the GUI, or the graphic user interface that's known on the web, will actually change quite a bit in the release that's coming up in July and August, and we're going to more of a flat design because we have a lot more stuff coming and we need a way to navigate to that. Testing and some of the designs are done here in Hardee. Those are new skill sets that I think I could be confident in saying never existed or were cultivated here in town until we made it so. We have created new jobs with new skill sets. We continue to get resumes in. That is important because one of the things I want to do, and I want to underscore the fact that we have 13 people working at Tech River, is that these guys down here, I want to hire more of these. And I will tell you why. I want to hire some more what we call CareSync representatives, or the medical training specialists, because we have had some fruits from our sales and marketing push, which I told you was going to be our priority starting last month. We're happy to say that we finally have a new and permanent sign in front of the building. It illuminates at light at night. I think that it will be a very nice beacon as you come across Rio Road. You know, I remember when I got here, it used to have a blue tarp. You guys have made great progress. Those of you who walk the building, really? I mean, do we really think that that thing has anything but awesomeness all over it? I mean, we have remote video monitoring and security. We have complete and utter, access that every key swipe and every door is unlocked with a plastic key fob. And you don't have to reprint keys if you change locks or any of this other stuff. It's state of the art. We have installed some new servers, and we actually even trained more classes. And one of the cool things about the fun fact, and as we learn, and that's another thing, it's always so easy to say, well, you could have this and you could have that. It's the Monday morning quarterbacking that always makes somebody smarter than the NFL guy that was coaching on Sunday, right? We've overcome a lot. And, the building had some delays and we did some other things, but we came in at budget to do the renovation. We spent thousands of hours of our time in being certain that every doorknob, every tile was laid out, all these things to attract other companies that want to share in the excitement of technology with us. And one of the things that we learned about Tech River University, we can't do classes during the middle of the day. We thought that there would be some people we couldn't. So we pushed people to night classes. And when we did one on Facebook privacy settings, and 10 citizens that are not employees of Continuum showed up for the classes. and now feel more confident about how they can attempt to manage their businesses as well as their individual profiles on Facebook securely. We'll remain with a singular focus. We are now about sales and marketing. Doesn't mean we can fire developers, because we have to stay ahead of the curve. We have to keep innovating. If you don't innovate in technology, you die. And so these are some things, and again, if you want to know these names, meet with me personally. We are in serious talks with 3 major payers in the United States. And one of them is even in New York. Because what happens on October 1st of this year is utter chaos in healthcare. 40 million, and depending upon the immigration bill, 50 million people will enter into the healthcare system as full-fledged, I got an insurance card, take care of me now, in just a few short months. We don't even have enough doctors to see people at this point. So what you have is payers saying, how can you keep these people out of the doctor's office? And what do we say? You give information to their care teams. You let husbands and wives, sons and daughters help with the care. You let them try to keep them more healthy. And when they do get to the office, they have information so that you're not putting them back in the system to get all the retesting and everything that you want to know before you make a decision on how to treat what you think they have. This is huge. This is a great business opportunity. So we have insurance companies that are saying, look, would you mind taking on a pilot of 1,000 or 10,000 of our patients, track them, monitor them, get their records to see if you can't lower their health care costs to us. And they'll pay us to do that. But these are longer sales cycles. And so we're out there aggressively. You can look at Twitter, Facebook, Google+, blogs. You can go to our website. We are out there advertising and telling consumers that we also exist, which is a shorter one. We have, this week, we are negotiating the final clauses of a letter of an intent with the largest faith-based orphanage in the nation. This is a very impressive program. And again, I would tell you the name if I did not think that somebody would try to use it to beat up on this project and discourage people with. But these are people who have given their lives to take kids whose parents either died, couldn't take care of them anymore, or the state removed them. But you know what? They have healthcare issues. They have obesity, they have diabetes, they have heart conditions, they had things that were taxing on the parents that couldn't even take care of them anymore. And CareSync is going to create a pilot study in tracking the data on how we make it better. Why is that important? Because all of these orphanages do what? They overlap with foster care. Who runs foster care? The state governments. There's 50 of them. We proved this in Tampa, who intermingles with DCF. In Tallahassee, we now prove that we're able to go and actually take off some of the burden that's at the Department of Justice for juveniles. You're talking about millions of contracts, maybe even tens of millions of contracts. And you do that throughout the state, and again, all that work comes back to this town. Some of the developers do want to move here. I just can't afford to pay them to move right now. You know, I mean, we watch every penny. But I don't know that that's going to really do any good, because I think we're going to create other jobs here faster. And when we create jobs, you know what? Then other people will start to build amenities. You know, movie theaters, who knows what, you know? But the point of it is, when there's more to spend, people spend it. And when you do, that gives businesses opportunities to sell. We also have had a lot of, that top line of the hospital specialty. We met with this hospital system, it's here in Florida. We told them that we want to familitize children with cancer. And we want to do it for 100 kids. We're going through a lot of the legal wranglings of privacy issues around data, who owns what, whatever. But they're really excited about it. But they're a chain of 12 hospitals that focuses on Medicaid children issues in the state. We prove it for 100 kids. Can we imagine what the possibilities would be for a rollout after that? These are big. I mean, these really are big. And why it's so important to stay the course is because if we're going to ask somebody to spend $1 million, $5 million or something with us, we have to promise them that we're a stable company, that we're not going to go anywhere. Because if they vote for us, they get fired if we fail. And that's what happens in the professional world. And so you have to have the confidence that you have the technology, talent, and resources to see big projects through. Partnerships. Some of you have asked, okay, you're burning through $300,000 of cash a month. True story. We make about 30,000 right now, if you want to know. And we make that through other forms of revenue that comes from CareSync, as well as government contracts that we work on for Northrop Grumman and other Department of Defense contractors that we use some of our programmers that have top secret clearance for. That money comes back into Continuum and it's reinvested. We will start to spend more. And the reason that we're going to spend more is because we are going to push out a national sales and marketing campaign, as we talked about. And so as we continue to get money in from revenues, it will immediately be reinvested to grow the company. One of the things that we're looking at to jumpstart that initiative is to raise venture capital money from other institutions who have a penchant for healthcare. We have been meeting with them and we have been getting very favorable responses back. And that process takes months, unless you want to act like you are panic mode and then they see a fire sale. We want to sell a portion of our company to venture capital, to investors, but we don't want to sell so much of it that we lose control of it. And so that's why it's important that we continue to stay along the path that we are, to stay confident and that we are something that's worthy investing, and that we are out trying to raise between $5 and $10 million. I will tell you that we had a soft offer for an acquisition 2 weeks ago. We told them that we are not for sale. And we aren't. We're too young. We haven't done what we set out to do. Maybe one day we will. But at this point, we're here to create a lot of jobs and create a new sound company. And it's one that has some control over its destiny. We believe that some of the equity people that we've been speaking to who have seen healthcare in their professional careers also believe that they're in unprecedented times. Healthcare investment, one last stat, I'm almost done. Healthcare investment in the last 6 months in technology is up 27% from last year. That's a significant number. When you think about the fact that it was like $50 billion that was invested the prior 6 months. People are throwing money into healthcare because they see that it is a good investment. And with chaos comes new business, comes new opportunities, and nobody wants to get left behind. So I think that I've tried to discuss with you some of our strategy, what we think our growth models are. We are currently looking at the difference between the subscription for the software, perhaps giving that away or reducing that to get greater user adoption, and then just trying to upsell people to the record collections. That's not a bad thing necessarily, because we make money also from the data, and we also make money from advertising, and we also make money from the ability to cross-sell products. Revenues protections, it's in the millions, and if we want to have those discussions, I'll be more than happy, with the confidentiality rules that apply to meet with you one-on-one and show you some of those spreadsheets. Job growth and Hardy. I really still firmly believe that what we're doing is the right track. And I think that what we have done, we started years ago. And I remember at Bond Technology when the months were like, wow, what were we thinking? We're the 300 and something company in an EMR space. We have people that we're competing against that are publicly traded companies and that could spend us. But in the end, and again, I think that company was blessed by God, we sold. And we were only one of the 4 of those 300 plus that sold and made it. My gut, my entrepreneurial instincts, this being my 9th company, says this is something that will be much, much larger than Bond Technologies ever was. And unfortunately, that is going to be commensurate with our investment. You can't build a $10 million home for $100,000. You can't invest $5 and expect to get back $1,000. And if we're going to be here to create hundreds of jobs, then probably our investment and our commitment to it is going to be on par with that. And so what we are doing now is we are trying to attract other investors and trying to increase sales as quickly as possible and grow in a stable way so that the CSRs and others that work here in Hardy are profitable, making money, and that we are hiring and training as fast as we continue to sign up groups and members. Thank you for your time.
Any questions from
Yeah.
board members for
I
Travis?
got a question, please. He's talking And-
No, use the microphone.
Oh, use the microphone.
No, I can't hear you.
Okay, now, I listened to every word. I may have misunderstood that. You say you have a $10 million home?
No, sir, no, that, somebody might have said that, I certainly don't.
I
I can't even imagine the upkeep on that, and God would probably smite me if I did that. And I don't have to.
Okay, well, I may
You
have.
can't build a $10 million
He's gonna
home
build
for
you one.
$100,000.
The taxes are terrible.
Okay.
I'm gonna build you.
That'll be fine. And during our discussion before, I have to, I had a question. How did you choose or go into this way of going into a certificate-based training institute? And you don't have to give me the answer why you made that decision to move in that
It's
direction.
speed. Two reasons. One is speed. The certificate program is certified by the publisher of the curriculum.
Okay. I'm actually not into the numbers. We got to look at what's available in Hardy County. I have to agree with Mr. Samuels here totally. If a marketing firm, a reputable marketing firm, had looked at this problem before he chose to go into this, then we would have to identify three things. How many new businesses are there potentially starting up in Hardy County that would send their employees for training to people that are going to have to develop a program, and then, well, let me just say, it's more likely that a new business will train its own potential employees on site or on the computer or on the webpage. Then, that's how many people would come. Now, this is, mind you, I'm playing marketing firm. How many people would travel all the way from a large city to Wauchula to get the training for that? And finally, I've heard nothing about the consideration about the economy. The economy is not conducive to creating jobs in anywhere in America right now. Things are looking really, really bad. So then the bottom line for my thinking is that I was hoping to see a forecast and actual solid numbers and solid evidence that there is a possibility of this program to continue to self-sustain and to grow. The presentation was beautiful. You tell a beautiful story about Steve Jobs and drop down, even the NFL and the doorknob, and you know, it's just great. But it's a sales pitch. I'm sorry. That's essentially there are no details, and you did make the point very clearly to me that it's the best candidate for private investment, because private investment in cities where you can draw on your needs, but for Hardy County, and maybe I'm talking too much, for Hardy County to sustain the business without those guarantees, which I was looking for and hoping to find, I think it can't be sustained. Now, let's talk about the medical thing here. There can be false inputs into the medical records business. It's one, and that is besides your company. Outside hackers, China, please forgive me, Chinese, but they're good at it. It would be a very easy way to destroy the healthcare system by entering false information. They even pretend to be doctors. They're coming, well, anyhow. We believe Okay, there was a statement that the only way we're gonna fail is because of you as the board. I totally took exception to that. And then we got the name dropping, and so I was looking for real substantiated stuff, and I didn't find it at this time. Thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, last week, I asked Christie to send these questions to Mr. Bond, hoping to get a response before this meeting. And maybe he was waiting today, because I didn't want to blindside him. I wanted to be fair to him. And I don't think these questions are out of line. Now, Mr. Bond, there may be some things in these questions you can't answer, you can just tell me. And there's a couple of them that you sort of have already answered. But I would like to get these questions in, and you can just either answer them or say they're confidential or whatever you want to do, okay?
Okay.
Okay, number one is, do you have a plan for sales, revenue, and local employees for this year, 2014 and 2015? I mean, there's been some talk in the past about 2015 you would have 100 or 200 employees or something like that.
Yes, we do have projections.
Okay, that's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Number two, do you have a business plan you can share, or are you using LifeSyncs?
We are not using licensings, and yes, I do have a business plan, and I would be more than happy to share it with the individual IDA members and under a confidential setting.
Okay, so you're gonna say it's confidential what your business plan is when you've taken probably $5.5 million of public money?
Well, I'm not saying it's private, I'm just not saying that it's internet public.
Okay.
I think that there's a difference. I had said in my, I don't think it's a sales pitch. That,
I'm a simple person.
yes, no, you are a very smart person. That I believe that if we go ahead and share our forecasts, we literally use that as fodder for any other startup in healthcare that could Google it. And I think that they would use it against this project. And so I think it would be unfair to do so. Because as I entered into this conversation, competition is fierce. And I think that you can use the number of foreclosures on homes in this state to say that Florida, as a state, is losing. Houses are being foreclosed on less than other states, and their home prices are going up in other states. And that is because people have the jobs to buy them. And so, again, I do not want to hold information from my board to which you think is important to make a decision. But I feel some things, if we're disclosed, it may help you to make a decision, but it could potentially jeopardize the project to a critical level.
Okay, I saw that report this morning on foreclosures too, but my understanding of it was because the court system is so far behind in Florida that puts us number one at the moment. Mr. Evers, given public money, can they have confidentiality in everything they do?
Donald, they can't have confidentiality in everything they do, but they do have, there's a statute on confidentiality in public records, and it has line items in it, and specifically business plans would fall under something that's confidential. I mean, that's one of those things that if you throw it out there and it has so much detail in it, competition eats you alive.
Okay.
But there's a statute specifically on certain records can be confidential and exempt from public record production.
Okay. All right, number three. Do you have any idea why Blue Water failed and CareSync will be a success?
I would not say that Blue Water failed. I don't know that I agree with that.
Okay.
And I do believe, I hopefully in the 30-minute presentation had articulated why I believe this project will be a success.
Okay. Good. Now, I've got a question here about have you had any offers to buy CareSync from private investors I think you pretty well answered that.
And I gave that statement specifically to your question, and you're right, I did not, I do appreciate you giving me a heads up on the questions. I thought that it would be best to present the answers to the questions that I could in this format. So I was not ignoring your email, but thank you for the heads up.
Okay, all right, and number 5, I think you kind of hit on that. My question is about how many paid customers do you have and your monthly revenue, and I think you answered that.
I did.
Okay. What is the minimum monthly revenue you need to keep the Wauchula office open?
$300 a month.
$300?
No, 3 zeros after the 300, move the decimal point quite a bit over to the right. And I also tried to answer that question. I don't think that we're in a position to where we can stop innovating and fire developers who have been working on the project for years. There's not a model to, the health of the technology drives the health of the sales and marketing that is fueled by good technology makes the jobs. And I think that last month I talked about MetaFutures 2023 that happened in Tampa, and Clayton Christensen talked about how we used to go through recessions, but they only lasted 6 months over the last 100 years. They didn't last long. And then all of a sudden, we're still trying to get out of the one that we hit in 2008. Companies, we used to be the nation that put a lot more money into our starting economies, our starting job companies, because we were looking for returns at 5 years, 10 years, 50, and 100. Do you know that Walgreens, and this is not off topic, but when we met with Walgreens at Bond Technologies, to which we then put 50 stores of health clinics, I think it's 26 or something like that, but we were in 76% of the healthcare clinics that were in Walmart. When we met with Walgreens and had similar conversations, do you know that all their business plans and all their decisions were made on a 100-year plan? Not 5, 100. They're planning for 100 years from now. And so, to answer your question specifically, this is all a model to keep sales, marketing, the technology, and the jobs all tied to the same harness and continue to pull. So we're not looking at necessarily trying to be cash flow positive as much as we are being stable. And if you look at technology companies, that is what they strive for, is growth. Because growth is dominance, dominance is market share is value. So I don't really look at numbers in terms of minimum. What we look at is in terms of what is sustainable growth. And accounting for every penny that we spend, which, by the way, I do want to point one thing. There's as you know, that there's been some questions regarding licensing records, and that we have, as now an owner of those records through the acquisition, we will be in the upcoming this month producing every single transaction, including canceled checks that ever happened under LifeSync. And so we are working through your attorney, Ken Evers, and some document requests and so forth, that I want you to feel confident that in no way have we ever not tried to be completely transparent. And so those documents will be produced, and you'll be able to see what I feel is confident to reinforce this. It's not the minimum and it's not the maximum, because even if there was a bigger figure, the CEO's job is to try to make each dollar go as far as it can for the investment of the long-term survivability and profitability of the company. I've shown you every penny we've spent in the last X amount of months that I've been doing this. We'll continue to do so. And one of the things, like I said, I want to, as soon as we can, we want to take from the resumes and people that we've interviewed, and we want to hire 2 more CSRs, because we are now at the point where we have more work than our people can do. And so we don't want to suffer in our customer service and entering charts. But those certificate programs for us, the reason that they're certificate programs, it's short, it's specific, but it's transferable. And so they'll have documentation on their resume that if they have to leave town or they have to go work for Florida Hospital, down Florida Ave here, that they have a skill set that might make them an extra $1 or $2 per hour because they're certified in something.
You just reminded me, if you don't mind,
Yes.
the other point was the marketing and a firm would have taken Florida State University right close by you, so you're also competing for the pool of, it's only my opinion.
No. we thought that the reason that I will never start a sentence with, thank you for that. We did have a very good 2-hour conversation, and I respect your intellect, and I thought you two were extremely diplomatic. Tech River University is really designed to be an on-site educational environment to accelerate specific training. What we think is that the skills and technology, just like the Microsoft classes that young woman took, was 1 hour, 5 days a week for 11 weeks, and she gets certified. That's a long time. If you're the employer waiting for her to learn how to use it. For us, we'll train them in 5 days. And so in the state colleges, by the way, they're vending machines for courseware. That's how they make their money. And their courseware is 16 weeks. And so when you sign up for something, it's a credit hour, you pay on them per credit hour. They're more in the long term, just processing. For us, it's more functional. What I thought was a wise decision was that even if people did not stay with the program, if we gave them a certificate, that they were at least one more rung up the ladder in terms of education and having something for their resume that might help them get more money at the next job. So that was the reason why we tried to create as many certificate-based programs as we could.
Madam Chair, I addressed the chair. Thank you. Travis, I want to go on record. I have to be careful what I say. I want to recommend to this board that you fund this project. And that's a hard decision I've had to arrive at. It took me a long time to arrive at. I've been very critical. I'm very nervous about it. I don't know anyone here who isn't nervous about it, and I'm sure I'm looking at one that's very nervous about it too. But I want to say something. I believe that the youth of Hardy County does have the intellectual raw material to do these jobs. I have faith in them, and not only the generation that's in school now, the generation that's coming. They can do these jobs. What they can't do is what's going on right now, the coding and things like that, because it's highly technical and they don't have the experience. They haven't been taught how to do it. But I think they can be taught how to do it. These jobs can come here. I believe that. They can't. It's not happening fast. It's not be immediate, but it can happen. I don't accept that Hardy County's blue collar workers from forever. I don't accept that. It's not. We need to be more forward thinking than that. The question I have is, with the additional $600,000 to get you through the next few months to the end of the second year, okay, that'll get us to approximately $6 million investment, maybe a little over that. The initial agreement, and I do understand that was with LifeSync. Things changed, projections. Anyone who's in business know that your projections never come out like you want them to. And in this economy, they never come out nearly as well as you want them to. Mine certainly haven't. But the original projections were 7.25. Okay, so that leaves $1.25 million for the following year. I'm assuming that that's not going to be enough money. What do you think? Do you have any projections at this point as to what, starting in the fall, what you're going to need for the next 6 months, following 6 months, or the following 12 months? Where are we going to be in a year? This board and myself and other commissioners, I know we're getting bombarded with questions. The more that I learn about it, whether we're talking about this or any other part of this job, things look different. I think Horst alluded to that
very well a while ago. The more you get immersed in this, the more different things look. But we need to be able to tell our fellow citizens, our constituents, we need to be able to tell them something. Can you
Yes.
elaborate?
Yeah.
Can I add something to that? Because I agree definitely with everything Mike said. I understand confidentiality, that's business, whether you make a product or a service or not, everybody's trying to focus in. You know, the confidentiality, everybody makes a product or something, everybody's wanting to find out exactly and how they can tweak it to change it and everything else. And I understand us as a board, looking at the responsibility we have with that money and how we need something back. Can you give us a little idea, maybe Travis, as some of your focus groups, the percentages of yays and nays, some of your venture capital people, and how the supportive they are? Are you having 50% success, 10% success? I think that would influence me a lot.
Okay.
And that's something that you can just throw out numbers and,
Here we go.
but I've got more faith in you than that, okay?
You know what, and I have faith in God. Worst case scenario, we spend $4 million in the next 12 months. That includes additional spending for sales and marketing. That's spending. Worst case scenario, those are our projections that we're talking to investors with. We project that we have X amount of money from Hardee County, and then we have projections in terms of the money that we're already earning with the contracts and the consumers that we have. And then we obviously have projections on how many month to month that we think that we'll get in terms of new contracts. That's a $4 million spend that's based on the expansion. Right now, our burn is $3.6 million. Tomorrow, matter of fact, it was today, but it didn't know about the meeting, so it got changed. Tomorrow, there is a person who is head of a VC firm in, I'll just say on this coast, because there aren't that many on this coast, and we probably could find it, but we are under NDA. This company manages ultra-rich families, that their poorest family is $50 million and their richest family is $3 billion. This person went to Wharton. This person insisted at coming to our office, and she believes, quote unquote, what you are doing is phenomenal. Her entire career has been spent in healthcare technology. Health Edge Partners, same thing. We love what you're doing. Let us know when you want to sell, because they don't want to make a partial investment. They want to acquire the whole company. We have met in Atlanta and will continue to meet in Atlanta with a company who we have told that we will not sell, that we want $10 million, and we will use that $10 million on top of what comes from the IDA to spend over the next 2 years in an aggressive growth pattern to make up for any negative cash flow. Now, somebody's transcribing that. That was a lot of information. But those are the projections in terms of spend. We spend $300,000 a month. As we continue to get more revenue, we will take that revenue and hire more CSRs, and we'll hire more sales and marketing staff to continue to grow, because we're out there now. And my concern is that if we do anything to retract, they're simply just going to become a member and start scraping every single one of our screens and designing their own software. It's not, I mean, it's very easy to sort of reverse engineer a piece of software if you're a user and have access to it. We started 6 weeks ago, Mr. Prescott, in talking to VCs, recognizing that our third year was coming and that we are spending $300 a month of it. We did that for a couple of reasons. One, we would have done it sooner, but there has been a lot of negative press that has unfortunately put us on the first page of Google searches. If you're a VC and I just talked to you, the next thing you do is Google me. And if your name is with Mike Beeson, Tampa Tribune, St. Pete Times, Hardee County, Michael Minnie, you're all in the same thing. You're not going to go make an investment in us. It's too risky. And so we have attempted to wait for some of this sort of the Attorney General's response coming back on 159 and all these other things to happen. And so there are things that have held us back and how fast I wanted to seek other investors, because if I had my wish, I'd be spending more, because that's how you make money, is you go out and you sell and market it. If nobody knows we exist, how are we ever going to sell a product or service? Because it's new. Do you know, when I first got the iPhone, I'm a techno nerd. This thing sat in the box for 3 months because I like my real keyboard. I mean, even Apple had a hard time giving away their iPhones when they first came out. We have we have projections that we have shown VCs with a conservative growth in adoption that makes up a combination of what we're doing in the consumer market, which is what I said that we should be doing, and the enterprise market, which is a longer sales cycle. Those come up to be impressive after a couple of years in terms of what this company would be worth and the number of jobs that it would produce. We needed to go through a few months of pilots to see how long each page of a medical record would cost us. There's a lot of things that we had to do before we'd have the numbers to raise the money. So between bad press and not having enough data to give a real solid projections, we didn't want to jump the gun because you only get one chance to do what we see. But I will tell you this, Mr. Prescott, we have had 100% second meeting requests, if that makes you feel better.
Any other questions from board members? Thank you, Travis.
Thank you very much for your support and time.
Are you gonna have public comment?
Well, we're gonna move back into the budget amendments, which we will have to take a vote on, and we'll open for public comment at that time. Sarah, if you would like to restate the budget amendment.
Okay, the budget amendment for fiscal year 12-13 is to allocate an additional $600,000 for Continuum. And that money will come out of the special revenue fund.
How much is in the special revenue fund?
Well, we've had, up till now, we've had disbursements that total $9 million. And with projects that have been funded at an amount through 2013 of about 5.8 million. We have, when we get into 13-14's budget, we're going to go over some allocations for the special revenue fund. But through 12-13, there's about $5.8 million that's been allocated to come out of that fund.
Yeah, but how much is in there if we take this 600,000 out, and how much you got left right now today?
We'll have 5.8 minus
Back.
600,000. Yes, sir.
5 million, you say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's what
Any other questions from board members?
On the money on, I started looking at this like solar power, National Solar Bill, what's the plans there? We haven't done anything or heard anything from them in quite a while.
I got an email from them yesterday. I had reached out last week and they apologized, and I really meant to bring that email, but basically they are still on schedule to close and begin construction on their project in the last quarter of this year. I can find no local evidence of any activity relative to the real estate, but I will tell you that President Obama's edict or declaration last week or week before, that basically put green energy and green energy sources back on the front burner did enhance the chances of solar moving forward. I believe by the time we adopt the final budget, we will have an ability to either leave that $250,000 appropriation in or take it out.
And
But currently, I believe we should keep it in.
yeah, but in the future, maybe we ought to put some time limits on these things.
We did have them come back. I mean, I periodically will have them come over at your request, and you can reconsider. And I just don't think it'd be inappropriate if the board says at any time, you know, we're just not gonna allocate this money, we're gonna leave it in reserve for some other project. And honestly, if we had another project in which I felt like we needed that money, I'd come to you and say, I think under the circumstances, we should rescind this appropriation and transfer the money somewhere else, and you'd have an opportunity to do that.
Sounds like maybe something Ken would have to get involved in.
Well, it's, yeah, we would
Yeah.
definitely have him involved. And they have, I know that they have in fact completed their interconnectivity study with Duke Power relative to the site.
Any other questions from board members? So at this time, we'll open for public comment. Is there any public comment on the budget amendment? Yes, Mr. Kirkland.
On this continuum deal, I think, how to say it without getting you all mad at me? I think if you people, you board members, that's responsible for handing this money out, I think if you sat down and went over this, and this is my opinion, so it's unbelievable that a businessman would allow this kind of crap to go on without even sitting down and going over it. And where is this money going? I was in business at one time, and I worked on some big business people's equipment and stuff, and when I sent them their statement, they wanted me to come over, and they wanted to go over that thing. Did it really cost this much to do this? It looks to me like they're just having a party over there. They got money to blow. They ain't even up and making, they ain't breaking even by no means. And they're buying lunches and bringing snacks, and that's small potatoes. But then you get into, look where the invoices is coming from. You don't see any invoices from IBM or somebody they bought some equipment from. You see they bought it from another corporation that Mr. Bond owned. You see invoices for him going at every angle to suck money out of this thing. He's taking care of the hardware. He's taking care of the software. I mean, you have to sit down and go through it, and I just looked at it last night about 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't believe you guys should sit here and not scrutinize this thing, at least to some extent. I see this going on in Japan, but I don't see a bunch of fat cats sucking millions of dollars out of the program. Now this thing has got two ways to go, up or down. Either way, you've got a whole group of fat cats that's gonna come out and smell like a rose, whether it goes down or whether it goes up. It's your guys' responsibility to look at this stuff. Read these things where he's asking for all this money. I think it's absolutely ludicrous that you'd hand this money out that easy and free. And it's public money and all this confidentiality stuff. Mr. Evers got up here and told you there's statutes on this confidentiality. There is, but he didn't give you any details.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkland. That's your 3 minutes. Any other public comment? If not, we'll open for a motion to approve the budget amendments.
This is just to approve the 600,000 for continuum. That's a motion.
Thank you. I think we already did the amendment for the retention pond.
Yes.
So this would be for the continuum loans.
Correct.
amendment. Okay, we'll open for a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll move on to, are we going to go ahead into the draft? Is there anything else?
Again, the PFM allotment for $650,000 was voted on in a prior board meeting. I don't know if we have to have another motion to approve it into this budget. Ken can help us out with that. Is he here? I don't. We've already approved to allocate the money, but we're actually putting it into the budget now. So I'm not sure if you have to have another motion for that.
There ought to be a separate motion, just to
Okay.
put it in the budget. It was already approved, but the budget would be separate.
When we approved it, we did not approve the budget amendment. So
Correct.
proffer the budget amendment from, transfer from where to where, and then you'll have it with specificity involved.
Okay, so we would like to request a motion to approve taking $650,000 out of special revenue to allocate for the motion that was already voted on to allot that amount of money to be spent on PFM for the remainder of the construction. And that will be completed in this current fiscal year that we're in.
Is that in additional to the $1.5 million that's already been spent? Is that what you're saying?
No, the money was already approved, we just have to approve the budget amendment, because the budget is basically there and sits there. We approve money, but then we have to always make a budget amendment to basically account for it in the budget.
Okay, because I don't remember this. You don't have to just bring me up to par.
Okay, if you recall, the original appropriation of the original building was for a company called Lightning Bay.
Right.
And we replaced Lightning Bay. It was a spec building.
Right.
And that's where, when we start delving off into the proprietary aspects of a business who is really nothing more than a real estate tenant for us. The only difference was that there were additional architectural and engineering specifications for an increase in the floor. And we had originally received a grant from the EDA for $1 million, and we had appropriated $1.4 million for Lightning Bay, and the additional cost of the floor was around $250,000. The building is almost completed. It will come in at $1,650,000. We got approval to do that, but we didn't give you any, or we didn't ask for a specific budget amendment and appropriation to do so. That is all we're doing at this point. And to your earlier comment, we build buildings according to the way the engineers and architects tell us to build them, and I've never felt like it was under the purview of this board to delve into the specifics of their recommendations. In the future, with your presence here, we'll certainly use you in an advisory capacity, and I appreciate your earlier comments, but in this instance,
What do you mean about the
Would you
ballerina?
explain that? We don't have any right to do what now?
What?
Are we here just to say yes when you say yes and no when you tell us no? Is that why we're here?
I'm not sure where you,
Well,
picked up
maybe
on that.
I misunderstood. If I
said-
do, I apologize, Bill, but it seems like you told us that we have no business having any input in how these buildings are built or in how the floor.
Relative to the architectural and engineering design, we have no purview to challenge the designs of the architects and the engineers. I mean, I don't have a license in that arena.
We can't discuss them, or you tell us
We
we
did
can't
discuss
and
them.
look
We
at them?
discussed them, and the board approved increasing the engineering specifications for the building to the tune of $250,000. That was done.
I just asked a question, you know, I don't remember it, so you've been doing a good job answering it, and I'm going along with you and saying yes, 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 until you just come up with that, like, hey, you're just here to show up and vote yes when I tell you yes, and no when I tell you no,
I don't think that's what he said, Donald. I think he was
and you
saying.
have no business I'm not through yet.
We depend on the engineer's expertise.
Yes, absolutely, I agree with that.
I don't.
But
think
don't
it
say
needs-
that we don't have a right to say something about it, or to look at the plans and say, well, this looks good to me, or don't look good to me. We're not here as puppets, are we?
I wouldn't think that anyone would say that. Yes, sir.
Good.
Bill,
Let's go on, vote.
Just came in.
I understood your question, or your comment. In the meeting, we made a decision to change it, and we discussed it based upon the engineering specifications. So I'm addressing it that we did have input. We did make a decision based upon expert engineers and architects telling us the design that they felt was necessary to meet the demands of the company. And we did make a decision as a board that we agree. So I do disagree that we had no input, but I do, and I also agree with Bill that I do not have expertise to argue with an architect or an engineer to make those decisions.
Thank you.
Horst had made a comment earlier in the meeting that he could have saved us $200,000
And I'll prove it.
on the design, and I understand that, but that has not been a modus operandi. It's not been the way this board has operated previously. We hire outside independent people to make recommendations, and we vote as a political body. And I mean,
Well, I'll get into that later. I try to every month about Half Acre. I do not think that Half Acre is giving us the information that we should get under, what is it, Florida Statute 286, unless we're not going to follow that law either. But I'll get into that later. But what he's saying is that, you know, you look at this money, you say, oh, $100,000 to Jan, fine. Okay, give it to him. We don't delve into these things. That should be brought to us every month from Half Acre, what they're doing out there and why they're doing it and who they're giving the bids to. And we need more information from Half Acre, and I've asked for 4 months in a row, and I can't get nothing from them on the PF Man building out there. And I thought that the Auditor General said that they should give us the bids every month. They should give us the money that's been spent and why, where, how, and why. And I'll get into that later.
Okay, so let's get back on
I
the,
need to fill in on this, please.
hold on just a moment, Horst. If we need to get back to the business at hand, which is the motion
That is
to
the
amend the
business at
budget.
hand. No, it is the business at hand.
So if you have something relative to the
Yes.
amending the budget for the PF Man,
The PF Man, I got plenty. Going back to 11/13/2012, the magic phone call from England. There were six voting members on that day, 11/13/2012. Let me get, here it is. 6 voting members, now we have 13 voting members. Oh, I'll just throw this out, because analyzing the minutes of the meeting and taking the motions and the seconded, there's a total of 18 motions and seconded made by you, Vanessa, please, and Rick Justice. A total of 18 votes, motions and seconded on the day 11/13/2012. That was the phone call. It's public knowledge and it's all here. It's on the record. It plays in your car stereo. Now, it was stated. Let me find up map. Let me take a second here. I don't even know what this man looks like. I have never dealt with him.
And let me just touch base with you on that, because during the break, Bill and I discussed that it would be appropriate to invite him back to. make
We've
a
been asking for him.
presentation.
He's in England, he's in his airplane, who can't make it, but there are no specifics. That's the problem. We are turning our.
There's one point I think you need to understand, please.
Oh, of course, I'm listening.
This is a tenant, it's a lessee-lessor relationship. We have simply built a spec building and recruited this man and his company to come into the spec building. The specifics of what he does in that business is not funded by anything in Hardy County.
I agree.
We own the building. So, again, we have not necessarily we didn't delve into the business, the proprietary recipe of Keyplex when they came here. If we're gonna start turning these people inside out and upside down, no one is gonna come to Hardy County with this type of scrutiny.
And that may be better for us, because there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been presented to us. Post Office Box 458 Palm Harbor. People at this address. Sean Oken, and you know Sean Oken.
He's here all the time.
Sick, I haven't seen him. Six, he is one, PF Man is one of six other companies,
That is correct.
but why wasn't that provided to us? He's an LLC, one of six companies. And then his project is based, no, hold on a minute. His project is based on Orbital Power Inc. in a residential area in Guildford, Sussex, UK, 31 Larch Avenue. Never mind, I'll just keep my mouth shut and then let the facts speak for themselves. We haven't been given the information, but the information which was given to me was this, what's on here, and the minutes of the 13th, when that was 8 months ago since we've been looking for an update. Now, you gotta agree with that. We haven't, I've got it right here. I'll read it. Glasses. June 11th. I wanted to let each of you know that I have spoken to Sean Oak, and he sent his apologies for not happening at the board meeting yesterday. His flight got switched around and was unable to contact us due to him being in the air. We will work with him and try to schedule another update at the next meeting. Didn't happen. I immediately on the 12th said, please fill me in on PF Man and Oakham. I was told that it was forwarded on. I got this and the minutes of the meeting, and that's all public information. When you listen to the presentation, there was nothing solid in there. And if we're giving money away based on a picture, okay, well, thank you very much.
We're building a spec building.
We're building a spec building.
To meet his specs.
And we still own it. And if he fails, we put someone else in it.
Okay, that means we got 8 months that we wasted towards getting jobs.
We didn't have a building,
Expeditiously.
we would have never had an opportunity because we have no inventory of buildings in this community.
But he's demanding the floor to be expanded. Based on what?
And that's why we had a
Who is the
special-
engineer
that is why
and
we
who is the architect? That, if I can get that information, that'd be nice.
I think we can certainly get that information.
Well, you
How
should
can you
have.
go back and fix it? The floor's poured, the building's built, it's done, it's completed. Are we gonna go tear it up and put in, I don't understand.
It shouldn't have been, the floor shouldn't have been
You'll have to challenge those architects and engineers that design.
And I will. And
I mean-
based on arranging for me to meet with Travis Pond one-on-one, I'll meet with Dr. Oldham, as you like to call him. I'll meet with him.
I'm trying to understand,
I think part of this can be taken offline from the meeting with Bill and arranging a meeting for you with the engineers.
No,
What we need to discuss right now is the budget amendment for PF Man.
I'm with you 100%. And also make an arrangement for me to meet with Dr. Oldham.
Very good. We will
Thank you
do
very
that.
much.
So,
You know, I am actually very appreciative of the cordiality or something like that. And thank you very much, Bill. And thank you, Vanessa.
thank you. So on the table, we have a budget amendment for PF Man, which the funding has already been approved. As a matter of formality for us to keep everything in line for our next audit, we do need to approve the budget amendment for that. So we'll open for a motion to approve that budget amendment.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Thank you, and all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No,
Motion carries. And we need to move on to the task order for the Southern Track Retention Pond.
you have the task order for the Southern Track Retention Pond. Again, I'm just asking for formal board approval of this. Up to the board.
$159,933.
Yes.
This is something that the county was gonna do, or we're gonna get somebody else to do it? What the county road department or something, this is something they were gonna do, was that just the code?
The county road, I had hoped that they would do it. And they have been just too busy.
Okay.
And we put it out for bid, and
Well, that's good.
we have those bids. At the last meeting, I told you I wanted additional time to look at the bids, and we have developed this task order. I do not think it will cost that much money, but it is the same dirt that we talked about earlier, that the top foot will go to the landfill for cover because it is not suitable for building slabs or for fill for buildings.
Okay, are we gonna get to see these bids?
The bids are on file. They range from $117,000 to $450,000.
I didn't know that. So we're not gonna get an opportunity to, pass or reject the bid? As a board, or are you gonna do that for us?
No, I'm not doing it. If you recall, this board approved us to do our projects under project management. We have given the authority to do that to.
Oh, okay, this is coming under half acre, so I know we won't get to see them then, okay. All right.
Why would you say that? You can have access to any of it. All you have to do is come down there and get it.
Why can't we have them in this meeting?
Well, we can. We can
Well, I'm gonna
take a
talk about
recess
that
and
later,
go
I'm
get it.
gonna get Ken to tell me we don't follow 286, and then I'll leave it alone after that. Okay. I'm done.
So what is the pleasure of the board regarding the Southern Track Retention Pond,
So moved.
approving the task
Budget.
order? Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We need to come back momentarily to Sarah so that she can complete reviewing the budget. The budget will be presented for formal approval at the next meeting. We have to be presented that information during this meeting, our budget workshop, which is going to finish presenting that information.
Each of you has a copy of the budget in front of you. You should. This is for fiscal year 13-14. Myself, along with Bill and Christie, have been working with Wicks Brown. Charlie Cox is here with me today, as I said earlier, to answer any specific questions you have. I don't know if you've had a chance to review this budget. It was sent out to you by Christie, so you should have received an Excel copy of it already. We're going to go over it rather quickly. Again, this is just an informal workshop to discuss the budget. The actual budget hearing will take place at the next meeting, where you'll have final approval and adoption of the budget. So if you want to look with me onto your spreadsheet, all of the columns up to where your pink line is that says total estimated general fund, all of the columns to the left of that are general revenue expenses. You can see that first we have all of our EDA grants listed out in order. The EDA grants do fall under general revenue. We have the Commerce Park Pretreatment Facility. The entire grant was for $400,000. We've expended quite a bit of that, with a remaining balance of $89,564 left to draw on that grant. We have the bionitrogen grant for $1 million, none of which has been spent. The Corridor Group first phase grant for $650,000. We have a balance of $500,000 or so that needs to be spent out of that. We have applied to the EDA this round for phase 2 of that project. We put in an application for an additional $500,000. We will go back before the EDA in late August for the funding. We have it in the budget as, you can see, a projected EDA grant. We do not know if funding will happen up until August. So once we have the final decision from the EDA board, if we are awarded those funds, we'll come back then and do a budget amendment to actually include that into this budget. So right now it's just projected. The same for Florican. We have an application to the EDA for $2 million for spec building for that project. After the voting from the EDA, we'll come back and amend the budget to allocate for that grant or not, depending on if they fund it. Those are all the EDA grants. Moving on, the Commerce Park Culver Pond, which is what you just did an amendment for this fiscal year, for $256,000. Property management is the next line item. That's all property management associated with the Commerce Park. You can see down under the expenditures and revenue that we have our Project K rental income that comes into that category, as well as fruit income. We have a carry forward balance from 2013, and then our expenditures listed at the very bottom for insurance and grove caretaking. All of those are in this property management category. We consolidated, in previous years we had split out. We had grove caretaking as a separate column and property maintenance as a separate column. We've combined all of them into one property management category. And so you can see listed out all of those items that are associated with property management are under that line item now.
Why do you separate Tech River Building out of the property management?
I'm sorry, where?
You got the property management, all, what, 206,000 or something? But you got Tech River over here in another category of the same type stuff. It's the same type of expenses.
The Tech River building is a Mosaic appropriation. Out of the special revenue fund, you appropriated $700,000 for the renovations and makeup of the purchase price of the Tech River building. When we get past the pink line, those in green go over to the special revenue fund. Tech River, the building itself, is not a part of general revenue. Those monies are coming out of the Mosaic fund.
Yeah, the green comes out of the Mosaic fund.
Correct.
Okay, on the left side of the green is property management.
Right.
Does that money come from the EDA?
No,
Where'd it
that's
come
money
from?
that's in our general revenue fund of the IDA that comes from sales of lots, those types of things. We have general revenue that the IDA has from sale of lots out at the park
How much money?
or rental income.
How much money, you say 5 million in there? Is that what you
No,
said?
in general revenue, we have about 1.4. If Charlie, do you
Yeah,
want to?
we're projecting the opening fund balance at the end of this fiscal year in the general fund to open with 1.5 million, an estimated figure. Of that, 256 was the budget amendment for the culvert in the pond that you guys passed. The property management is basically cash flowing itself with the rental income on Keyplex and the rental income on the 2 houses in the cattle lease out of the Grove. We really scaled down the projection for the fruit income from 120 in years past down to 60. So those expenses are basically break even within the property management. The Tech River stayed in Mosaic because it is Mosaic versus a general asset. The beginning fund balance came about because of the sale of lots. The money that comes in, you'll see the transfer in each year from the Mosaic revenue, the 3.5 million, 100,000 goes over to the general fund each year to basically pay the administration costs, the legal, audit, advertising.
Also, Donald, the EDA grants also show in general fund.
Well, wasn't the Pico building bought with EDA funds?
Partially, and that's why I
Yes,
said,
Yeah, so why should it be coming out of the Mosaic then?
because this is, the portion that you're seeing in the green that's on the Mosaic side is the money that the board voted to set aside out of the Mosaic fund to make up the difference on the purchase price as well as the renovations on the building. The board voted to set aside $700,000, using $300,000 for renovations of the building
Right.
and $400,000 to make up the difference of the purchase price. The grant from the EDA was for $800,000.
Okay.
The purchase price of the building
Less than
totaled
a million.
up,
Less-
yes.
A little less than $1 million. Right.
correct.
Right.
So we used part of the $700,000 to complete the purchase price of the building and then the remaining monies for renovations. We do have some carry forward that I'll discuss when we get over to that side.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that takes care of the general revenue side. Charlie, do you want to add anything as far as general revenue goes before we move on?
There's nothing really I want to add except that we're projecting, general revenue, the beginning and ending fund balance to have cash flowed itself for the year less the 250 downward change is basically a result of the culvert and pond that you guys just voted on for a budget amendment. And I'll take any questions you may have.
Good, okay. All right, so if we move beyond the total estimated general fund, you're now gonna move into your special revenue fund, which is your Mosaic money. Across the top of your budget, you'll see the different appropriations. Broadband is remaining the same at $250,000. We have spent around $41,000 out of this fiscal year on that project, leaving around $208,000 to be spent in an additional year.
Okay, what are we slated to spend that on? I don't recall.
The $41,000 that's already been spent
Yeah, the other
was,
205.
the additional
Yeah,
$200,000.
what are we
It's,
slated to do with that?
right now, there is no appropriations is what we're gonna be spending it on.
Okay, all right.
Pacer Marine's job creation grant of $60,000. And then your Tech River building,
Wait a minute, I thought that Pace Marine had already give us the information that we needed to give them that money. They haven't.
no sir, the last time that they submitted their UCT 6 forms to me to review, they had only created 12 jobs and the job creation grant calls for them to provide for 15.
Now, those
So-
were additional jobs relative to that grant request.
Is there a term on this when we can reclaim this money?
that would be totally up to the board, how you want to
I
do that.
mean, was there a
So-
contract that says after this date, then this goes away?
I don't believe so. Bill? you-
I mean, I want to be fair to them.
They believe they have created the jobs, but because of the way the calendar count happened, they hadn't created them for 12 full months. And they had requested to come back to us and make that request, so we left it in the budget. I remind you that they are a good contributing client. And if, it just would be good if, I'd recommend leaving it in it.
Okay, okay, that's fine.
All right, your next column is the Tech River Building. Again, you appropriated $700,000 for the purchase price as well as the renovations on the building. After the purchase price of the building was completed and renovations were done, your renovations have actually totaled up to around $383,186.48. After we took out the purchase price of the building, which was $973,186.48, and our $10,000 deposit, we paid a total of $983,186.48 for the Preco building. After we subtract that from the $700,000 appropriated out of the Mosaic Fund and the $800,000 from the EDA, we were left with a carry forward of $53,755.43. In December of 2012, we paid the taxes on the Preco building, which were $24,000. $12,800 of that was actually included in the purchase price of the building. So your final carry forward for the renovations of Tech River are $40,000 and some change. We would like to get approval from the board to move that carry forward into a category for Tech River overhead costs. Debate.
Okay, let's talk about this. Now, you're talking about the light bill, the phone bill, the garbage pickup, the mowing of the grass and all that. This board's gonna pay for that building, right?
Correct.
That's what you're asking to be put in this budget.
Yes, sir.
And I guess that includes the lease payment. I mean, they don't pay rent out there or nothing, right? Is that included in this?
We did not project any rent right now, but they will begin paying rent.
They will? When? No, you said they were. So apparently you know.
No, sir, it is projected, but to be conservative, we did not include any rent income, but we would expect them to start paying rent at some point in the next fiscal year.
Okay, well,
According
that's.
to my conversations and discussions with Mr.
Okay, well, where I'm going with this is that we own that building, right?
Yes, sir.
The idea.
Then why don't we do this for Keyplex? Why don't we do this for PF Man? Why don't we pay their rent every month and their garbage and clean up their yard and all that stuff? If we're gonna do it for one, let's do it for all. That's what I'm asking. If we're gonna do it for Continuum and Tech River, let's do it for Keyplex. Let's do it for PF Man. Let's do it for any other building that we own. Let's pay all this for them.
You did vote to waive the lease payments for PF Man until December of 2000.
Well, I didn't. I was hunting that weekend, and I think 30 months was way out of line on that. But anyway, that was done by the board, and that's fine. But all this other stuff, I think we should pay Keyplex's light bill. And I think we should mow their yard and pay for their garbage and all that. If we're gonna be fair, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander.
Yep.
Okay.
So you're seeking a motion on transferring.
Yes, the carry forward from the Tech River category into Tech River overhead.
So we'll open for a motion
I didn't think we were voting on any of this today. I thought it was a public hearing type thing.
This is another budget amendment that we're discussing, whether or not we want.
This will take place in this fiscal year.
Oh, you mean the Take River stuff?
The overhead costs.
Okay, the last line under Take River Building there, that amount of money there, that what you're asking? This what, $56,000?
You can leave the money there, or you can transfer it back into Mosaic General Fund unencumbered balance, or you can transfer it, whatever you direct us to do, we will make budget amendments to reflect how that money is treated.
My position is that they pay it themselves.
Well, you voted
No, we
yes
can
to-
pay the taxes and the insurance if they'll pay us rent.
We already took up the issue and
Oh, we
that's
did?
not on the table today.
Oh, okay, no, we did, okay.
So what we're
Well,
discussing
I
is
don't understand.
transferring the balance back to the Mosaic general balance.
Correct, and creating a category for Tech River overhead costs.
Which is basically us moving out of the construction phase and into just the
Operations.
Maintenance. So again, we'll open for a motion to approve creating a Tech River overhead column and transferring the balance that is in the current Tech River building column back into the Mosaic general revenue.
Not back into general revenue for Mosaic, actually creating a line item for Tech River
In the
overhead
Tech River
costs.
overhead column, okay. So transferring the remaining balance into the overhead column.
Correct.
So moved.
Do we have a second? All those in favor?
You gonna ask for public comment on that? You're voting on it.
This is a workshop, and we will take comment in the public hearing at the next meeting before the budget is formally approved. But this is an informal workshop where we're just reviewing and discussing the amendments.
I'm part of the public and I got a few questions about what you're voting on now.
We are going to take public comment in the next meeting before the budget is formally approved.
What can
So
you
you're
take?
saying you just gonna go ahead and vote to hell with the public, what you're saying? Go ahead.
No,
Can you take
that's not
votes
what
on
we're
workshops? Can you do that?
We're just taking direction. You can call them votes or whatever. All we're gonna do is the philosophy of the board. We're gonna change these items.
Yeah, I
that you discussed.
understand, but you're calling it a workshop. Does the commissioners take votes on workshops?
There you go.
That's
Okay.
what I'm asking. That's all I'm
So
asking.
we may be over formalizing the workshop.
If it's not a workshop, fine. If it is a workshop, then we shouldn't be doing this, is what I'm saying.
Well, then how are we gonna come back and present you a budget if we don't have some consensus of idea? We are seeking a consensus then, rather than a vote.
I would go with that.
Will that
Yes.
work better?
Yes.
This discussion is simply to get a consensus. I'll still be subject to amendment and public debate in the future.
You're doing good.
I'll even say good.
I am, without structure, I am at a loss. So is it the consensus of the board?
This is going to be really
That's what you do when you put up with mail.
I'm done, guys. So then it is the consensus of the board to include that and present it with the formal budget. Okay, we're moving on. I think that we are now into Foothill Larson engagement letter.
We met with them last week. We had Wicks and Brown on the telephone. What, Sarah?
Do you want to go over the rest of the budget or no?
No, I'm good, just yes.
Okay.
I've tried to patch it over like 3 times, you're not getting the hint here, so.
I'm just gonna go get a Coke. The next
You may not
item-
want to open for any more motions, though.
Yeah,
Just-
okay. National Solar, it still remains in the budget under Mosaic for $250,000. Continuum's grant award is still in there as well, with the amendments that will be made to show the 600,000 that was voted on today. Bio-nitrogen, there is a line item in there for $1 million still. JDC phosphates at $200,000 appropriated. And then, not to be voted on right now, but at the formal budget adoption, we would like to add an appropriation for Florican for $1 million to come out of the special revenue fund for fiscal year 13-14.
Which the funding was already voted and approved for Florican. No. We discussed going to.
We've discussed it, but we have not had a formal motion to actually approve this $1 million.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Florican is really, I have it on the agenda, but I'll go ahead and tell you now. We made the presentation to the EDA relative to a $2 million grant to build them a building. I think y'all heard a presentation from them, and their requirements will be 120,000 square foot building. We are projecting that building to cost around $4 million. Their preference at this point is to build that building in the Commerce Park. But their cost, the total cost of the project, the building, et cetera, is over $7 million. They will have significant skin in the game. We will have them back to you to further understand exactly what we're doing with the project. The purpose of this discussion today is to simply notice you again that we believe we should appropriate at least $1 million to subsidize the EDA grant of $2 million if the EDA funds it. And at the end of the day, I would like to be able to make close to a $4 million, a $2 million contribution to the $2 million grant from the EDA, which means we'll have $4 million in it over a period of 2 years. We would do a 7% gross lease with them. If our investment was $3 million, they would be paying us $210,000 a year. If it's $4 million, they'll be paying us $280,000 a year. We have agreed, or tentatively have agreed, subject to board approval, to pay the property taxes. I also realize that we have property tax abatement capabilities in Hardy County, but if every project that we do, we don't find a way to support the cost of county government, we're probably not going to be doing everything we should be doing relative to providing balance. And so I had proffered the same as with Keyplex and PFM, that we would pay the property taxes out of the 7% gross lease amount. If everyone feels like we shouldn't be trying to pay these property taxes to the county, we could lower the gross lease amount. Those are options available for us, but that president had said yes.
How much is the property taxes on that much of an investment?
They're roughly going to be 16 mils. So,
well, the property taxes should be paid, but it should be part of the lease agreement that you get enough rent out of them every month to pay the property taxes.
right, no, that's the whole purpose
Sure,
of
they
what
should
we're
be
trying to
paid,
do.
absolutely.
But we're paying them rather than having them seek abatement. Everyone, abatement is it's been adopted by most of all the counties around us, and it's the only incentive they have to operate. Kind of feel like, from our perspective, we can assist the county government with revenue if we don't have them ask for abatement and we include it in their lease payments. That way there is money flowing back to the county. It justifies the IDA from the standpoint of producing positive cash flows, and if that's a bad philosophy, we can have that.
Well, I guess it depends on who pays the taxes. Is it this board or is it going to be the business?
Pardon?
I said, I guess it depends on who's going to be paying the taxes. Is it this board going to pay the taxes, or is the leasee going to pay the taxes?
Well, the leasee will be paying the taxes relative to their gross lease that they pay. But the property will be in the IDA's name, so we will be the one who pays the taxes out of the lease money.
So we'll get back to the budget amendments. We can certainly take up the debate on what we want to do with floor cam when we approve that money.
The next line item is for the communications coordinator position, remaining the same at 36.5. The chamber marketing appropriation was for $74,000. They've spent $15,955, so they have a remaining balance of $58,045 in that category.
No, that's gonna stay in the budget for next year? Is that what you're saying?
It will.
Okay, can we get a report from Casey about what
not
she's
chamber.
doing to spending this money? I mean, she's spending a
No.
lot of time with Continuum Labs,
This,
and I'm
If
just
you'll
wondering if
just
she's
give
doing
her-
anything
If you'll
for
give her
this
1
marketing.
second, she'll
Do what?
If you'll give her 1 second, she'll explain it, because it's not the chamber anymore. That was a grant program that we had done
Oh,
2
okay.
years ago, that it was
Okay.
$20,000 was appropriated, we spent 15 out of that. In her budget, that's just her marketing budget that she has, that
It's
says
not the
nothing.
chamber marketing.
it's not the chamber. The original grant was for chamber marketing. As she said, it was for $20,000.
Okay.
She spent 15, almost 16,000 out of that. The remaining monies that are in that marketing category are now the Economic Development Office's marketing budget.
So what do we do with them? Maybe you can give us an update when we approve this, of how we're using this money and what we're doing in marketing. Okay, thank you.
I personally think that should probably come from Kristen, since she's the communications
Oh, with
coordinator.
somebody.
I mean,
So-
I can tell you Kristen has a budget, where Kristen has a marketing budget and plans to do
Other,
with it.
other
so
than
I'm-
this, other than this one?
She has the money that's allocated in the marketing, in your marketing line item. She has that money broken down into her own budget of things that she plans to do with that, so I'm sure she'd be glad to
But
present that at the
but
next.
this is the money you're talking about?
Correct.
Yes.
That Kristen had?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else on the budget?
That's all. Do you have any final questions for Charlie?
It can be amended from time to time through the year.
Yes, and after we adopt the final budget, we can go back and amend as you please. Amendments can be made at any time during the fiscal year. So these numbers are not necessarily, set in stone, for eternity. You can make changes.
Thank you, Sarah.
Just come over from that. We had a pre-audit, meeting with Clifton Larson Allen, relative to continuing the audit functions of the IDA. I requested this year for them to audit the EDC, as I suppose it's gonna be a component unit of the IDA. From an auditing standpoint, I'm not certain exactly what nomenclature will happen, but that would be the only substantive change in the contract. We are basically piggybacking on the county's contract, since they are the county's auditor, with the determination that we are a component unit rather than a non-component unit. As each of you know, it has resulted in us hiring a separate CPA firm, Wicks and Brown, and the auditors will remain, with your approval, to be Clifton Larson Allen, and we simply need approval to engage them to do the audits.
You say it's a piggyback?
It's piggyback.
Okay, I'll vote against it. Shouldn't be piggybacking. Lazy people piggybacks.
Thanks for calling, Brian.
Do you need action on the item?
Yes, I'd just like approval to engage Clifton Larson Allen for the 2012-13.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
No, 13, 14.
13,
30, fiscal year ending 9/30/13.
That's better.
Fiscal year.
fiscal year ending 9/30.
Okay, we can use them because we haven't used them for 5 years or something in the EDC, and they're a 5-year limit just to get to a new one, is that right?
I'm sure there are rules I don't know yet, but yes, and if we don't abide by them, I'll go to jail.
What is this less than 5 years, I mean, for them to do this?
This is well, it depends on how you count. The very first
I
audit.
can't count very good. I'm just asking, I just think we need to go by the law, if we're gonna go by the law. Now,
Going
we
by
don't
the
do that a
law,
lot.
going by the law in this instance, since we are a component unit of the Board of County Commissioners of Hardee County, it just makes great sense to me to have the same auditor that does the Board of County Commissioners books audit our books.
I'm not against the bill, except for its piggybacking, and if it's within the guidelines of the years, then that's fine.
Well, then, let's don't use the word piggybacking, let's just say that we're corresponding or agreeing or working together and holding hands and feeling good about each other.
That's a true statement.
Well, let's vote, I'm gonna vote against it, because it's piggybacking.
Okay, so we'll open for a motion to engage Clifton Larson Allen.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed?
Aye. Undecided.
You either need to vote or declare a conflict of interest. Let the record reflect it.
No, look at it.
In the interest of time,
Sign.
perhaps you could just share with us.
No, he voted undecided. At the bottom. Lori,
You're going to jail, Lord. What I did. You were undecided on something. When?
he voted undecided.
And your point?
I don't think I've ever.
I was trying to be, give me back my paper.
I don't think I've ever voted undecided.
You see your smile on your face. No, Lori, look at it.
He got me.
Okay, so do we have a
At the
vote
bottom.
from you, Horace?
Please.
In the interest of time, we need to move along. Do we have a vote from you?
I'll say no.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. We'll move into the EDA grant updates. I believe Bill has already given us the update on FloorCan.
We have made the request as per your approval before the EDA to provide $150,000 in funding to the EDC's operations, $500,000 for the corridor group, and $2 million for FloorCan. Those were done last week, and they will take up the funding on August 27th.
Okay, Sarah with the financial report.
Okay. You'll turn to page 2 of your financials. That is the profit and loss for the EDC. We took in $50,000 out of our BOCC funding and then took in $3,500 from Main Street Wauchula, which includes their rent payment as well as $2,500 that they have put towards the salary for the communications coordinator. Our expenses for the month were a normal month. There wasn't anything out of the ordinary. Total expenses, $23,697.52. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and move expeditiously to page 14. 14 is the profit and loss for the Industrial Development Authority. Under income, fruit income, we brought in our check for the Valencias for $62,966.20. Under expenses, you'll notice $100,684.05 that was paid to Half Acre. Most of those payments were for PFM, pay apps towards the construction of PFM. Nothing else was out of the ordinary. You see your grove caretaking as well as Continuum Labs draw request. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay. Motion to approve the financials then.
So looking for a motion to accept the financial statements.
I'll make that motion.
I'll say.
Thank you, Morris. And Russ. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Do we have any announcements or other business from board members?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Donald.
Go ahead, you wanna go ahead?
Okay, mine is very simple. On my first meeting, this being my second meeting, I sort of mentioned something about for our students and kids in Hardy County to have a chess club, or to think about it. There was positive talk about it, and I was wondering if anything has been done about it. And then the other thing is with that park where families can come out, I mentioned that we should work with the soldiers, returning soldiers that are in bad shape.
And what we,
I'm not sure that chess clubs is under the purview of economic development, but.
We got a volunteer back there.
I was just wondering,
Miss Hardy County?
She had to go
My grandson played chess.
well, I'm ready to help out.
Give you a run.
Anyhow, and the other thing was to make that park, the, you know, where the families come in to go fishing and that stuff. And I had mentioned that we should maybe select some soldiers to take your family out there. And you thought it was a good idea, and I was wondering if anything was done on that.
I think that we defer to, you know, that the
Okay.
park belongs to the county and they have
Finally,
the parks and
finally,
recreation.
I'd like to make an observation. I was in shock when the meeting was set to adjourn at 10. And I said, what? Wow, are we super people? So I want to say it's wonderful to see that everything went flexible and we got some more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Morris. Donald.
Yeah, I wanna ask Ken to come up here unless he's gone to lunch. And, I try to get information every month, half of the last 4 months, about what Half Acre does. And maybe I just don't understand. So, I guess my first question, Ken, is, does our contract with Half Acre require them to record all quotes or bids on the tabulation sheet and send them to the IDA board for review and comment prior to awarding the bid? Now, I realize that if that was actually followed, that the building would never get built as far as us reviewing and approving the bids ahead of time. But I think we should be able to see the cotton picking things and look at them on a monthly basis.
Donald, if your question is, does the contract require, you're reading something that you have written down verbatim, so I can only presume that.
I got it out of the Auditor General's report.
Okay. I don't know the answer to the question. I haven't looked at that in a long time. I looked at it back months ago or a year ago or whatever it was when it was signed, but
Okay.
it's a lengthy contract. It's,
Okay.
and it's very thorough. My recollection of the Auditor General's comments, Donald, really were a couple of things. They commented on whether or not an architect had been hired to represent the owner, and they commented on the fact that their reading of 287.055 was that, you know, I guess the file really had no evidence, in their opinion, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, that the bids had all been compared and awarded, taken to the board for award, but I think they had. Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it had been brought to the board, but the question was just the file didn't show the analysis of it. That was the primary issue. Do I agree? Is it a good idea for this board to know? Yeah, absolutely. You know, that as you've got a project going on, I think you should have interest in who the awards are going to and where they're out of, and as it's going on, I don't disagree with that at all. But the specifics of that contract, I just don't remember. It's been
Okay,
so long since
well,
I
maybe
looked
you
at
can
it.
get time, you can look into it, you can bill us for it. How about payment records each month?
Kind of the same issue.
Okay.
I don't.
You
I
gotta
don't-
elaborate, that's fine.
As a project goes along, Donald, I don't think it's a bad idea for the board to have access to what's going on. And they are the manager. That's what they're hired to do, is to take care of all that. So, but the records, you know, is it a good idea, or should you have access to them? Absolutely.
Does 287 require this? And you said you probably didn't recall at this moment, is that right?
287 is not that specific. It's really the contract that you're talking about what's required to be submitted to this board. That would be in the contract. It would not be in 287.
Okay, does the Attorney General's opinion exempt us from 287?
No, it does not. The Attorney General's opinion addressed Chapter 150 now.
I realize that, but I just wanted to throw that in there because I know I've asked for 4 months for this type of information that the Auditor General cited in there. And I just can't seem to get it. And so I was just wondering, you know, if there was any requirement for our staff to bring that stuff to us every month, or if there's not, then fine.
I don't recall what the contract says, but I don't know why you wouldn't have access to that if you want.
You know, I think we need to, as a board, needs to stay on top of these projects and things and ask questions and look into it. That's our obligation, not just to come up here and well, never mind. Okay, thank you. I'm through. I'm done.
So Dawn, were you requesting then some sort of monthly report from Half Acre to show an analysis of bids that they've reviewed and?
Madam Chairman, I've asked for this for the last 4 months. I've talked about Half Acre for the last 4 months and I just can't seem to get any response.
Well, I can assure you that there is not a reason to not have any response. It's probably because we don't have the aptitude to understand what you're asking. And if you will simply come to, if you will come, there's a,
About this problem, and the Auditor General may be wrong
but
or right.
the project the Auditor General
That's a
made
good
comments
idea.
on was done as construction management at risk. We are now doing projects that we take on with project management. It's a whole different contract, a whole different, it is that piggyback with Hillsborough County.
That's why we should bid these jobs out.
We are bidding them out. We just have someone, well, we could,
I mean, the whole building, I'm talking about the whole building. Instead of going this management thing, we need to put it out there for bids and let contractors bid for the building.
well, the whole purpose of this was to try to let the smaller contractors in Hardee County have a shot at some of this work. If you put it out for large contracts, the large contractors from the coast are gonna get the entire project, and none of this money is gonna get spent in Hardee
Well,
County.
at least our local contractor has an opportunity to bid on it.
We only have one contractor
Well,
that is capable of
well,
bidding
that's
on
right.
these larger contracts. And we do bid them both ways. We bid them as a turnkey project and as individual components. And
Well,
all that bid
I'm
information
asking-
is available for you.
Bill, if this board wants to go the way that we're going now with Half Acre, fine. I don't like it. But if the board as a group wants to do it, that's fine. I'm not a poor loser when it comes to
You
votes.
want us-
Wait a minute. But I think that we should be able to at least get the information on a monthly basis about what he's doing out there. Just keep us informed in front of our eyes. All right, I did the electrician. All right, I got 4 bids. This is the one I picked. And it don't have to necessarily be the lowest bid that he picks, 'cause I agree, there's some bids that may be in the middle that's doing a better job than the low bidder. I mean, just information, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from board members? Mike?
Well, I got 9 more packages available. One will be for you and one for Bill.
And I think that, is that information specific to FORCAN or
No,
just,
PF,
okay,
and then a little bit about my qualifications.
Or if you need to use
the mic,
Is this for the board members, Forrest?
Yeah.
I think what would be appropriate is to have Ken review the information first, Donald.
Say again,
I
I'm
think
sorry.
what would be appropriate would be to have Ken review the information first. We want to make sure that we are accepting information appropriately from between board members according to the Sunshine Law. So we can have Ken review that information. Do you have that information
I
available?
got one for Ken.
Oh, you talking about this?
Correct.
Oh, we're not supposed to look at this?
Well, if it's not been presented publicly,
Oh,
it is
okay.
No,
communication
it
between
was-
board
it
members.
was-
Oh, okay.
So we just want to make sure that we are
It was
handling it
given
appropriately.
from, all the information from here came from Bill's office in terms of the public record, which was handed out to people. And
If you don't want this company to come to this community and make their investment, we
No,
can
no.
just tell them we're not.
it's only the facts. It's only the facts that you presented
But
to me.
you-
But if you don't want anybody to have the information here,
You
as
have,
board members,
you have an obligation
No.
as a member of this board to foster and promote economic development.
and I do that.
If you are taking a public position to do something less than fostering and promoting economic development, we probably need to receive that in a formal report, and then we'll post it online.
It is online.
We just
But-
need to make
But
sure
if
that.
it's
You mean
coming
to tell
from
me
you,
that
if
the
it's coming
agenda,
from you,
the agenda that was of November 13th, 2012,
if your information that you're dispensing individually to these members without making it available to the public could be perceived as a sunshine law violation.
well, then
All
I'll
I'm
make it
saying-
available to the public.
And that's all we're saying, is that
Well,
we need
we have to do
we need
that.
to accept that
Sure, then
information
the
through
public
the
can come and get
office.
them, but I only got 10 of them. And I
Well,
worked
then we
hard.
can,
We'll
we can make
post
that
it.
available
I mean,
electronically,
can I
but
give you one?
all I'm requesting is that
Can I give you one?
we need to disseminate
Sure.
that information through the EDO
I
office.
would prefer you give it to me first.
I will. I'm walking over
No.
there.
No, it's fine.
Did y'all
Okay.
hear what Vanessa said?
Hand it right on over.
Hey,
understand.
did y'all hear what Vanessa said? She just wants Ken to look at it before any of the rest of us to make
So you
sure
don't have
we're
a
not
violation of
causing
sunshine law.
any violations of front sunshine. So Ken needs to look at it first, then we'll all get a copy and look at it, Horace, that's no problem. Okay?
Good.
Okay, any
Here,
other
give
comments?
this one to Ken. Where is Ken? Come and
Any
get
other
it.
comments from board members?
Come and get it.
Mike?
You know that's gonna cost us $1,000,
Yeah,
don't
Bill,
you?
it's,
Well, we got plenty of money to
That's
spend.
vacation money for you.
Ken, you'll write something
Okay.
down.
Motion to
Let-
adjourn.
Let's try to stay on track.
Briefly, y'all know I sit on the executive board of Heartland Workforce. And I try to bring some information from time to time, and I got this yesterday, it's not good news. The Heartland Workforce Region, which is Highlands, Hardy, and DeSoto County, in 2011 through 2012, the three counties lost somewhere in the 1,800 job range. Hardy County lost 245 jobs, and that's probably as a direct result of a large employer. But what my point there is, that's in a 12-month period. We can't build spec buildings fast enough to make up for that. We have to think big, and unfortunately, that's I don't know how you compensate for that. But we need to think aggressively and forward. Thank you.
Question mark, is that ag included in that?
Ag included, it's all includes all industries. Yes.
Do you think that truly reflects all the workers that we don't see around anymore?
I don't know what it reflects. I reported at the last Board of County Commissioners meeting, I had some information that showed a declining unemployment rate. And then I get this yesterday. I'm not so sure how to take the two reports, but this is a specific number. I don't know how they exactly come up with those numbers where you can come up, be consistent and accurate, but it is what it is.
That is critical, and that's why we as a board need to be very careful how we spend this money to get the most bang for the buck. And we don't need to be spending billions of dollars for something that we might get 100 jobs 20 years from now. We certainly need to consider manufacturing. These manufacturing people that wants to come in here will create jobs a lot quicker with a lot less money.
Now, I got two more questions. Is this a public meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And is Commissioner Thompson a voting member on the IDA?
No.
That's all I need.
Madam Chair, one comment on the Clifton Larson Allen issue, Donald, for your benefit, if it makes you feel any better, it's not really a piggyback. Clifton Larson Allen is the only entity that can perform that audit. Once the component unit issue was determined, and it was determined that IDA would be a component unit of the BOCC, they're the only entity that can perform that audit, because they're including it's part of the counties. When they do the county's audit and financial reports, remember, the IDA's financial report will be, I think, discreetly presented, if I remember the terminology right, within the counties. So if they're doing the county's work and the IDA is a component unit, they have to do the IDA's. That's
Okay.
it's not really a piggyback. I think Bill used that term, but it's.
Well, my biggest concern was that, I mean, we stay in trouble constantly, you know. So if I understood there was a law that says you could only use an auditor 5 years, then you had to change to another auditor. And that's only my concern. I don't want to get into any more fusses or any more trouble than we're already in.
I don't agree we stay in trouble constantly.
Say again?
I don't agree that we stay in trouble constantly.
Well, that's your opinion.
That's right. That's why I said I don't agree.
And I got my opinion.
Before we move into public comment, I apologize, board members, we did have one item that we didn't cover that we can probably take care of fairly quickly. In your agenda, you have a letter from South Florida State College regarding the Small Business Development Center. The Small Business Development Center, we have partnered with them in previous years. They do business counseling through USF and the college, through the SBDC program, and this is the request that they submit to us annually that we have partnered with in the past for funding their program. They work with businesses in Hardy, Highlands, DeSoto, with helping them develop business plans and advising and counseling our local businesses. Did I leave anything out? We do need to approve the $3,252.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will move back into our announcements and other business. Anything else from board members before we move into public comment? Yes.
Just a comment on Horace's deal about the chess team, that the CF mediation funding, would that be a source for him to do something like that?
Good. They haven't wrote the rules yet.
Written.
I wrote them. You written them. You're from up north, I'm from the south.
I'm sure that also, there would be an advisor at the high school that could probably help establish a program like that.
Well, actually, I was invited to give a speech at the high school about an immigrant in America. And I gave that speech and the students were wonderful. And they had a chess club, specifically this one black guy. He was the sharpest of them all. He's probably graduated. And they wanted to play, and I played during the lunch hour. And they were really good. They really enjoyed it.
Okay, we're gonna open for public comment. Mr. Kirkland?
I had 5 questions, but something came up that I think is a little more important. Mr. Samuels and Mr. Lambert were talking about the piggybacking and the half-acre thing. I asked for some records on some things that went along, and we don't have any records dealing with your request. This is pitiful. You, Mr. Lambert, June 5, was it 12 of 2012? You sat up there and you explained why you wanted this guy to help you manage this, you had too much to do, and this, and that, and the other. But the main concern was beating the time on RFPs and sunshine laws and all these things. But I suggest that you went way deeper than that. This, to me, is a plot to hide this information that that member here is even asking for, and that us public want to see. We need to know what's going on with this half-acre deal and building all these buildings and doing all these things. And it's like you're a cat covering up crap. And I submit that to you. That's my opinion. I believe you're doing it on purpose and you're hiding it from the public. And God help you, I hope sometime you get justice.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? If not, we will open for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody else is welcome to stay.
Sell a car, man.
Need to run, sir. I've got work at the bank at 6 City.